Hello, Tashidele. Yes.
Hello. Hi. Hi. Rashidele Rinpoche. Welcome, everyone. And thank you for joining us from all over the world. My name is Jing, and I'm the Executive Director of 84,000. And I would like to wish everyone a very auspicious Trikoduchin. 84,000 is very honored to be co-organizing this teaching by Chokyi Rinpoche today, together with Shedrub Mandala. Chokyi Rinpoche has played an important role right from the beginning of 84,000. Rinpoche has been instrumental in setting up the Dhammachakra Translation Committee and Rangjung Yeshe Institute. And Dhammachakra represents one of the largest teams that translates regularly for 84,000. Taken all together, the team has been responsible for the translation of 85 texts and over 9,500 pages into English, including the Sūtra that Rinpoche is going to teach today. RYI is a close and trusted partner of 84,000, consistently training and producing a continuous stream of highly skilled scholars and translators. We are deeply grateful to Chokyi Rinpoche for his vision for the long-term future of the Dharma, his ongoing guidance, and his unwavering support for 84,000. As a long-term project, 84,000 aims to complete the over 1,000 texts in the Ganjur by 2035 and over 3,000 texts in the Tenjur by 2110. There is plenty that needs to be done. We would like to encourage all aspiring translators to study hard, and we hope many of you will be able to join and contribute to this important venture of making the words and wisdom of the Buddha available to millions of people, now and in the future. On this auspicious occasion of Trikoduchin, which commemorates the Buddha's first turning of the wheel of the Dharma, we are very fortunate to have Rinpoche teach us on the Sūtra of the Wheel of Dharma. This text is available on both our reading room and on the 84,000 mobile app. And with this, let us now put our palms together to request Chokyi Rinpoche to begin to teach.
Tambalame Sanjo Rinpoche, Jabalame Tamjo Rinpoche, Dambalame Gendu Rinpoche, Jamne, Gonsho Somla Zechiku, Jege Jekamla Chulu Mambo Yobari. Tene Chulu Tedala, Temba Yobari, Temba Yobari. Ane Tesonza Chulu So Ganga Langazo Kukur Shugore. Ane kam deri namba sanji peke chode tenpa tang tenpa se tenpa debe sanji marmeje la sowa maung junjur ke sanji yasa chabamba gombo tade tenpa nyame tubu wangbo tela tenpa se tenpa la neme pa zomba sanji tela yonten kare yore jimmi pacha de jeba sangshin chenyi yishi jeba re driba nisi kare nyoma be driba da sheche driba re Nyodip the Shedrub sanction Nilu Chetawa Tang Shecha Chinyaba Champa Chimachishi Chenkentela Sangje Shakjatuba Shuare.
In this world, there are so many different religions, religious traditions, and each of them has a teacher and also teachings. It's very important for us to respect all religions, all religious traditions. Here, we are in particular in the context of discussing the Buddhist teachings, the Buddha Dharma. Here, the teacher, who is the teacher? The past Buddhas like Dipankara, the future Buddhas like Maitreya, and the present Buddha, the Buddha of our present time, who is Shakyamuni. These are the teacher. They are the teacher in this context. And when we say that the unsurpassed teacher is the perfect Buddha, what kind of qualities does this unsurpassed teacher have? The unsurpassed teacher, the Buddha, has fully and completely purified the two obscurations and has totally and perfectly unfolded the two wisdoms. What are the two obscurations? The obscuration which is the negative emotions, the afflictive emotions, as well as the cognitive obscuration. These have been totally and perfectly purified. And through this, the Buddha has come to see the natural state just as it is, as well as to know everything that there is to know, just as it is. And that's why we speak of the Buddha as the perfect Buddha, the perfect awakened one, Shakyamuni.
최탐 지기 춘이 체 다와신도 천신 마세베 시자 콘데 람숨주도베 최탐 제 치마 지신 천진 천바텔라 내루 치다와 천베이시 시자 진입에 천베이시 천베이시 티 싱어라 지금 자와 타자 대난사다 다다 깝들은 잠불랭 잠부대바 대야 차내 직동 임바레라 대나라 다다 던베게 가리tem바레서 던베 담배 취했단바레 던베 담배 취했대 다 투몽케 로라 자바주니 투모 마이 벨로라 던바투지젠데 얘네 와바 상제샤바레 제sem바레 durchan dulwe chirtula then japan juni 대샤바진 로베 턴튼 로반 dulwe chirtula 토모 마이 베 태바침베 글로라 진짜 소요래 너나 덤베케 가르템바레 덤베 담배 취했단바레 담배 취했는데 가르래 다 tel라 취주 콜로 더 총거를 당고대 가와송아래 열와라 나서 translate 저다지 나라 덤베 덴바시 송아래 술로 송아래서 코르가데 상부 죄베 라다 메다 라마이다 티사드 잡은 더나 되네 로마 치자마 볼로 추추 콜로 렘바스 송데 대시 덴바시게 남샤 렌 숨라소바 데데 더나 durcha테다 라 덴바통 라라 다준베 컴파토 따지도 좋아해 대응원도 덤베 충코로 거라 그러면 대응원라 덤바 도지되는 원버도 상제네 안데 가르소아래 다테 도 자체 로바나로 소아래 랄리타비스타나라 차나소테 인시 미치 로나나야 버레테 주리어래 te juriyor leja kela yore ta tinsa 84,000 kya juriyore shen keri kashel juriyore te kambenche tombe namtar sambi shaba juriyore ti nal garuso sabshetrodren osal dumache dutitabe cheshe ko ni sula tenje kor menebe mina nada ni de nebercha sata tinde sungare te kapsulata du sangazo shimo takche tangna sanjeke teparemba sum 도모게 태바 파르신지 태바 나치 태바 생각해 근데 티값은 거든 측화란 게 신여 측신부터네 도모게 태베게 이렇게 가르쳐 총코르게 신다보대 따와 따위 숙술 좁은 남샤 근데 파르신티베게 따와 제보가 따와당 제바 살포 제테널 소쇼야 바래 땡아준지 미치테 고야 볼래 고도 가레세나 단도 투모 테필로라 테파직 마도 메바래 냐랑 그 로라 테파직 마도 파르신 테파당 아치 테파세테 용소 마라 바제 바래 이나야 덤베 요로와라 나솔 총코 마거베 콘툴라 덤베 그 투라 냠도 가리 총한테 측가카시 지나라 뒤대 소샤바 디나라 택바 숨게 냠내게 남샤 창마 테날 살보 전에 식기 신여 식신 여러 대소자 tel랑아주 대과랑아주 거와 약부질래 나 안에 택바 숨가라 산지게 샤니 소아인바 택바 숨 갈완 매바 직패 직도인바 아주 살보 자하코투 그래 대소사 대 가르쳐 보지도
The Buddha was able to see that all that there is, he was able to see all phenomena just exactly in the way that they truly are. And likewise, to perceive all that there is to know. Samsara, nirvana, and the path, all phenomena. He could see the natural condition of those things exactly as it is, and all phenomena in their great variety as well. He was able to see thousands of world systems, millions of world systems, to see the origination, abiding, end of this world and the emptiness, the empty period that follows. He could see all of these things with his omniscient wisdom. What did this teacher teach? He taught the sacred Dharma. According to the general tradition of the Buddha's teachings, the Buddha enacted or carried out 12 deeds. From the unique perspective of the Mahayana, he was primordially awakened. And it was in order to tame disciples that he performed these 12 deeds, in order to teach and benefit all beings. This is the unique perspective of the great vehicle. But what is it that the Buddha taught? He turned the wheel of the Dharma for the first time in Varanasi, at Deer Park, at the Rishi Vadana. He taught there to the 5 first disciples, to all of the gods and demigods and all kinds of beings who were gathered there, to many, many different beings. He taught different things. He taught whatever it is that would be of benefit to them. But before that first teaching in Varanasi, before that, the Buddha, and you can find this in the Lalitavistara Sūtra. When the Buddha first awakened, he spoke a verse. And this, again, you can find in the Lalitavistara Sūtra. It's translated, it exists still, it's extant still in Sanskrit, but it's been translated, 84,000 has an English translation, and it's also been translated into several other languages. So you can read this sutra, and I do recommend that you read it. It's really wonderful. But here, the Buddha taught, right when he first awakened, he said, I have encountered a Dharma that is a nectar-like Dharma, that is profound, peaceful, simple, luminous, and uncompounded. If I were to teach this, people would not understand, so I will just stay here quietly in the forest. This is what the Buddha said first upon awakening. And if we examine that single verse carefully, if we really check, we can see that the Buddha is teaching all 3 vehicles of the sacred Dharma very clearly in just that single verse. He teaches the general vehicle of the Buddha Dharma. He teaches the vehicle of the perfections. And likewise, he teaches the vehicle of secret mantra. All of the essential teachings, the key points of the view of those 3 vehicles are contained just in that verse. That is to say, he teaches the ground, the foundation, the view of the general vehicle of the Buddha Dharma, and also the conduct and practice of that vehicle in that verse. He likewise teaches the view of the vehicle of the perfections, the paramitas, and he also teaches the vehicle, the view of the resultant vehicle of secret mantra. All 3 of those vehicles, the key points are present there in the words of that verse if we understand it well. And therefore, we must understand it well. From the perspective of the general vehicle of the Buddha Dharma, there is just those teachings. There is no mention of the vehicle of the perfections and no mention of the vehicle of secret mantra from the perspective of the general vehicle of the Buddhist teachings. But when we look at those words that the Buddha spoke when he awakened before his first teaching in Varanasi, those words that he spoke based on the experience that he had at the moment of awakening, we can see, if we examine carefully, that all three vehicles are taught very clearly there. The key points of those vehicles are present in just those few words if we understand them. And if we understand this verse clearly, then we can understand all three vehicles of the Buddha's teachings clearly. And we can also understand that they are not in any way contradictory, that the teachings of each one of these vehicles perfectly supports and benefits the teachings of the other. So we can come to understand this through this verse, and it's something that's very important, therefore, for us to come to know.
sabshi, sapa, tempa mambo yare, jitela, tempa mambo ke, chöya mambo ten yare, yena ya dangme seken tu sunke, dangme tokpe sherap seken sunke ti, tempa tuji sen yinpare. Kare sada lenyo trunan ki tsawa te dangjin to dakdun zimba ti shik mato kapar, yal mato kapar. Dangjin ki nyembo ti dangme tokpe sherap mato, shen kanki jang ti chom tuko yo mare, shik tuko yo mare, meba soto yo mare. Te zonsa dangjin ti dongal tamchi ki tsawa. Leda nyomo chulbit nawa ki tsawa ti dakdun zimba lo mongpa tere. Yinpa tang te nyembo te dangme tokpe shera sengen te shintun deja sammo. Te sammo yinpa songsa tela sab tsik te yobara. Sab se. Yabo gomba sheda. Kora nga zudu se rikpe chepa chena dongal tamche che tsawa te dangjin rano tuko yore. Dangjin. Te pa unjur rabo keche shena chakdang yore, chakdang. Chak seke su dra tre ro rikchi denyo longcho nyeda la sopa chane shen chak se dang se chakdang ni le teni nyomobe tokso namba na sopa sharki yore nyomobe ke tokpa tiki le ngenpa chi chea mato mebare lu ke le ngenpa chigire la nga ke le ngenpa chigire chetun juken te nyomobe chigire 착당 얘기 줘. 착당 얘기 자와때 몽바데. 몽베 자와때 닥두 준비 로 몽바데레. 닥두 준비 로 몽베기 녀포때 딱메 똑바시라 코나 임바람바도 셴 강께장때 식두고야만. 차 망보살 솔라 망보다 초사 디비전라고 망보체 추춤 망보서 짐바 땅 추춤 송 소바 검 준두삼 냐바샤나에 식두야만. 아주 가르쳐래. 내루도 그래. 내루사카레 초탐피케 추니 깜데르 당메 똑바샤라 앞서도 야부 공부하셨다 사바 세다 간르도 사바 슈와서 산적 추 냠술량도 랑초도 간르레서 최내 체와 빵와데 대신식바 남지 송선다 산적 송베게 담배 최디 지마 지신 냠술랑알라 체와 빵고레 체와 생한테 류지 체와 나기 체와 자 마치 예지장 체와 얘기 넣었음 대빵고래서 탐에 탐마대 최내 체와 빵와 때 대신 시작반 남 지송 대배산제게 대송요를 다대산제 대송 마음배산제 대송요 당진대 동아리 탐지 자와 임보송요 체와 매바 세미 시위 람 다 등산 처음에 시에 남락도 돈당 오면 저빵 하세. 다 저빵 술도 간에서 빵 거래. 다 저빵 술도 간 거라고. 류지고는 쏙 줘봐 맞은발레봐 덜어. 나 그거는 준탄 참아 치수 예지고는 납센에서 럭다 때 매개 왔죠 되게 채와래. 두 술에 채와래서. 셴라 채와줘 랑을 안 넣어버렸어. 랑 셴이갈 넣어요. 랑 셴이갈 넣어요. 랑 셴 강갈 넣어요. 봐서 채와서 채와 빵와서 탐에 탐마대 산적이 냠술랑 세도 룽아 예수님 채와 빵와들이 딱 삽시 슈와 채와 빵와들 슈와래 슈와.
When the Buddha awakened, he said, profound and peaceful. Profound. What does that mean here? There are many teachers in the world. There are many teachings that have been given. But the teaching on the absence of self, the teaching on the wisdom that realizes that there is no self, this is the Buddha Shakyamuni's teaching. This is unique. Because grasping and clinging, fixating to the idea of self is the root of all karma, all negative emotions, and all deluded experience. The root of all of that is ego clinging. And so until we can destroy this ego clinging, until it goes away, it evaporates, it's gone, until that happens, we will continue to be caught up in karma, the negative emotions, and deluded experience. What's the remedy then for ego clinging, for grasping to a self? The remedy is the wisdom that realizes that there isn't a self. That's it. There's no other remedy. That is the only way. There is nothing else that can destroy our grasping and our attachment to the self. Nothing else that can bring that to an end. Nothing else. The only thing that does that is knowing that there is no self. And grasping to the self is the root of all delusion. It's the root of all suffering. It's the root of karma, the afflictive emotions, and deluded experience. All of that, where does it come from? Ego clinging. That's where it comes from. What's the remedy? Realizing that there isn't a self in the first place. That wisdom, that's extremely profound. And that's why the first word that the Buddha spoke when he awakened was just that, profound. And if we understand this well, if we really check using our intellect, we can understand, we can know clearly that all of our suffering does indeed come from grasping to a self. It does come from that. And this is what the Buddha taught. And that kind of affliction manifests outwardly as attachment and hatred, passion and hatred, attachment, for example, to forms and sounds and smells and tastes and textures and sense pleasures and enjoyable things. That kind of attachment, clinging, grasping to those, that's attachment. And then there's hatred or aggression. This is the manifest form. That's what happens when we grasp to the self. Those two things come out in a manifest way. And a lot of negative karma is accumulated on the basis of those two afflictive emotions, isn't it? We do a lot of negative things physically, verbally, when we're motivated by attachment and aggression. But the root of that attachment and aggression, what is that? The root of that attachment and aggression is the delusion of thinking that we have a self. That's where it comes from. That kind of confused experience, that deluded experience of grasping to a self, ego clinging. And again, nothing else can bring that to an end apart from the wisdom that knows that there isn't a self. We can't get rid of ego clinging by prostrating a lot, by praying a lot, by engaging in the practices of gathering the accumulations and purifying our obscurations, by being generous, by being disciplined, by being patient, by practicing being diligent, by practicing meditation, remaining in equipoise, not by doing those things. Just doing that does not bring to an end our ego clinging. So what does? What do we have to do? Realize the natural state just as it is. That wisdom. And in this context, that wisdom is expressed as the wisdom that realizes there is no self. And so this is what the Buddha meant when he said profound, that very first word. And then, how do we practice the Dharma? How do we practice the sacred Dharma? Well, it's taught that the Dharma is avoiding harm. This is what the Tathagatas taught. So avoiding harm does not just mean avoiding physical and verbal harm. It also means avoiding mental aggression and harm, ill will towards others. The Dharma is avoiding harm. This is what the Tathagatas taught. That's what the Buddhas of the past taught. That's what the present Buddha Shakyamuni has taught. This is exactly what the Buddhas of the future likewise will teach. And also, all of the Buddhas, past, present, and future, teach that the root of our suffering is ego clinging, grasping to a self. They all teach the peaceful path of avoiding harm. What does that mean? It just means don't harm anyone in any way. How do we avoid harm? Well, physically, we don't kill, we don't steal, we don't engage in sexual misconduct. Verbally, we don't lie, we don't speak harshly, we don't speak divisively, and we don't engage in idle chatter and gossip. And with our mind, we don't have ill will, we're not covetous, and we don't have wrong views. Those actions are harmful actions if we were to engage in them. Who are we harming? Well, we're harming others and we're harming ourselves with those actions. Both, self and other both, are harmed when we do those 10 things, those 10 non-virtuous acts. And that's why it's so important for us to avoid harming, to avoid engaging in those actions that bring harm physically, verbally, and mentally. And that is what the Buddha meant when he said peaceful. The first two words, profound and peaceful. What does peaceful mean? It means avoiding harm.
Sabshi, shwa, silwa, shilwa, shila, tsultim. The tsultim de natural law matter. Ranshinki, chunichi tim. Sena yabo marwa. Kuda yabo marwa, jitenchi kamla, se down, good jab said. Sebata, good jabata, longim lasovale dene, and timkan govatan. Ane timchiba goarwa. Yokramoba yongdoa. Ko chuniki timroa. Tesos shila said. Tatanda miki chupong said, shilare. Teta je pa jena, tene laba tsutimchi laba said. Tene gelong mayaki, ta dompa soyaki ritela, laba tsutimchi laba. Laba tsutimchi laba the nyamsa yabo lana, and the caripengere, laba tengenjik laba tengenjik nyamne to juri yabo chegres. Tela laba tsutimchi laba tela, nintuki laba tsutimchi laba te, nesepayatere. Longa yesumchi, nepata, nebe shit chepa payate, te ten kalbochere. Teme, ten kalbochere. Mena meta maba shiden rabo. Lamkirimba, chimachishi, yamsulamar chapala, tambo, penda kangba raboji jakbayna, kambe sashiyam, kambe minti yakuji goa nashi, miki juti inji, michi pang tobaji goyore. make it jam, the lava chudum lava the yabuchu suntuna, take lava thing in lava, Jumata thing in the power of it, thing in the dorjita thing is that thing is a comment, thing is a quality ships of Soyor, T. Julia Lelavo Jayor. Lava chudum lava the Julia Wojena, lava thing in lava, Satanta Shubanashi, Dame top sharp, said, Ursum to talk to her. Timato Teva Mambo Cheba Zam Chiktam. Jebachen, Doctor Mambo Cheba Zam Chiki, Dame top sharp, Ursum to talk al Hawyer. Tende let tene lam rimba should the Jukwa. Lava Chudum Lapa de Yabu, Yabayan, thinking Yamling read the Yabu Jul and Jontoba. Tell it then shut up the Laba. Damn of a shut up the Julie Jetova Yori, Tendre Sonson, Tatanta Yonsu Trapa, and around so Nientu Debi Lula, then some Nientu Deba Sumla, that take Hatchibus. Nientu Debats are mine, but Takbachimber Yamle Chegata, Sangata Chepeke, Sanjek Chusuki, Shiam, Drumtita, Labasum, Lam Labasum, Sikran Lam Labasum, Telatine. Lab Govatang, Lam Labasumla, Lapsulkin, Lam Shating, Ship Sapo, Yanguata, Yang the Sultan, the Yams Langota, Yams Lani, the Ranjula, Topa Cheperchin, Jula, Magic, but the Yams Langoere, Tinde Sonso, Gunde Kala, the Gendugi Desoke, that to some Nansul Raboti, then Lava Sutunji Lava. The lava thing in the lava thing in the lava Yamsuland, to some gomsum yam matter of Nani, Lava Sunkin Yamlet Nani, and to not over Shepherd Juliet Jenny. Then it Rowan Dembe take virtual and Rowan Dembe take Lamlo or Lam to receive a Cora Chanquetsola. Then Lam Temba Pochayori. Tembatang, T. Temba. Temba che chute in Jinju Pelsum anche della tech begin to get there. Tell a pack begin to get there. Sanju Sempata Sama, Dajombata Joma, Tata Naroso Getsulton, Mari Galong Pada, Galong Ma, saying the Shira Calciumbere, the Lapasum, Tunju Rap the Chupa, saying the Calciumbere, that Gindu get there, Yabo, in Jitan's Kamla. Tarshin Nayona, Sanjay Chutin, Putapu, Yamsha Mebe Abujin Jitins Kamla Tartuga, Netuga. Take Gendu Data, Lapasum Yamlete, Putabu Machona, Chut Yopatandava, Chadori. Tenders of the Narazu Gaga, get Tondan Chegoyate, Chir Tembanzik, Park begin to get there, la. Tetsa mai bangarazu sanje ki jinju yonsu zope ketene labasum nyamsu langwe ramada labasum seyate gendu galon ma changpe nyamsu lang yin so gona te nuntu chumbare mazu kanke labasum te kantutu nyamsu langware te sonsa sapshi seyate ta shiwa seyate linge ketene laba chudubji laba la soba kalshuba yinpa tene te kapsu lo yang Sanjay Tambo Sapshi, so I sick telling Yeke. Nyarankit de Tatanta Thailand, Burma, Sri Lanka, Lasopa, Lata Sanjay Chutet Nyamsulanke Mamboyore, Tinala, Nyamsulanke Yakushi, what today or Yeke at Thailand, Barmatan. Tedeki Kintu Pangone, Tande. Kizu Samsung Zong came Maboya, Tendo Deva Maboya and Jalso, Labaso Yamsulang, Lanke, Telangatu Yintaba, the Jesu Yaran Shugore, Teta, teacher. That chunkut Nyepatilla Cariso, total successor, total dultals, lecture kill. You should near Kashi dultars, substitute dultars. Then the court devotion dreaded. Trebas, ta trebai, tashi the treba jet the talwas. That tajet the treba tashi the treba jet the tabata care. Ta uma patchen but tavares. Tatawate, tawas Tony dreaders, court devotion, Tony dreaders. 다 자기 당매 생존 텔파테스 자처리 체네 콘데 손에 남체지 버도 뒤에 초탐 란시지 담바는 버도 똥바니 똥이 생치대 똥이 쪼들 생대 다 테레 똥이 쪼들 생투요 다 똥이 쪼들게 따왜 낭네 되네 추침송 사바금 준주짬 냠버샤 고여라 되네 양 추침송 진바땅 추침송 사바금 준주짬 냠버샤 발 되네 양 돈이 쪼쪼 또토요 된데 소자 퍼신 쪽이 냠래 택바침비 그로라 바로도 침배 쪽이 냠래데 할레베 칼좀 버래라 대답하게 되네 다 total sikte total sikte 되네 대신게 따금 전쟁에 남사텐서 다르신 제라 내도요래 대다 단다 첨보자의 율당 되네 코리아당 자판당 다 라서발라 대신 그치도 다르시 제 내도요래 대내야한테 야 홍콩당 야나당 아니 말레이시아당 싱가포르 텐데 자이 라마야포 쿠데바 텐데 데바 충충 쇼셰버 원에 단에 그 람라바섬라 냠레 나게 체니데 데바트데 데네 개비신의 센터인데 잘용 최지 돌랭이야 슈용 텐서 감면세베 원에 꾸르바도 대소자 대생기 땜바테야 텔라야다 total sentel tene parchintu doing over shilla soba jasi chansu sempeki joba nyamlan nanke ta techen nyamlan nanke mambo yore tesos telaya tezulaya ngazu nim tabande jesu yara shugware ta telesos total sikte ngel teletin dabata jabar yebarin zina jokare yebarin zina tarbames yebarin zina tarban 매번 지나 토레야 가스 니순 진바르 메셴베스 유메니 진셔마차 니메 진강라 지카샤스 된 돈다 다시 쪼바제트 탈웨게 냠내게 렘바 다탄당아주 별 간전 주종래나 되네 젠투 촌이 댄샤베게 댄주 방법이어래 산지주 소웨게 가이 공반절비 땡주 망보여리 대나네야 오마를 소출라 소바 때마서 갈좀 버리 대첨부 자에게 깨라야 망보 여바라 여반다 다 등사 알아서 인치 깨라야 망보 주려래 뺀다 오마 주바 자와든 달바 주려래 오마 짜셰 킨달바 테비제야 주려래 테비제야 주려래 오마 게 겐델체 라마 메팜 그 손대야 줘요래 대조 마치 줄겐지 닥터 토미스레 대소서 체나 봐야 대레스 티콜라테 대성 검som 나야게 퉁도 요나 감 면세게 돼 가리쇼로 렉시 거라 롱다 렉바 맹아 추대바 롱르 추대베게 맹아 되게 이바레 대소자 대대대 트레달 시텔때 니타다된 잡아 퉁퉁 주셔버리 Catherine, where you are?
I'm here.
Okay.
Peaceful. Peaceful here also has the sense of cooling. Shila is the Sanskrit word for discipline, which has this feeling of coolness. And discipline is actually a natural law, honestly speaking. It's just the natural rules, natural law, right? Killing is not good. Stealing is not good. In the world, even just in the ordinary world, those things are considered not good. Sexual misconduct is not good. If you kill, if you steal, if you engage in sexual misconduct, you go to jail, right? You have a lot of problems. Just even from a worldly perspective, these are considered problematic. It's just natural law, the basic discipline that we follow in the Buddhist tradition. And so it's so important that we maintain this kind of discipline by avoiding the 10 non-virtues. That discipline is so important. And sometimes we talk in the Buddhist context about the training of or 3 different types of training. And so here discipline refers to avoiding these non-virtues, but in particular as well, there is the discipline, the additional discipline that one might take as a monastic, male or female monastic who holds vows. And what is the benefit of maintaining discipline? How does it help us to train in discipline? Training in discipline is extremely beneficial and supportive for the practice of meditation, samadhi. And this is the next of the 3 trainings, the training in samadhi. So if we practice discipline by avoiding harm, by avoiding physically, verbally, or mentally harming others, this again is the practice of discipline, which is the foundation for our practice. If we avoid harming others, then this allows us to have the proper foundation for training in meditation. And this is something that's really emphasized in the teachings of the Shravaka and Pratyekya Buddha vehicle, the teachings on practicing the proper discipline of avoiding physical, verbal, and mental harm, and also avoiding the basis or ground for engaging in that kind of harm. This is extremely important, and this is really emphasized in that tradition, but it's actually an essential foundation for any Buddhist practice. It's an indispensable foundation, honestly speaking. If you want to build a house, you have to lay a good foundation, because if you do that, then you're able to build a building correctly. So the foundation for our practice is avoiding the 10 non-virtues. We have to do that. We must do that. And when we engage in this practice of avoiding the 10 non-virtues and thereby train in discipline, that is so supportive for our training in meditation, meditative concentration. And there's different types of meditations, the illusory samadhi, the heroic samadhi, the vajra-like samadhi, and so on. But all of these meditative states are so much easier for us to train in and to cultivate when we begin with a foundation in discipline. And when we're training in meditation, then, once we've trained in meditation, this then is extremely supportive for the next training, which is the training in wisdom. And that's the wisdom that brings us to realize that there is no self. In this case, that's what we're talking about, the wisdom that realizes the absence of a self. If you try to gain that kind of wisdom that realizes the absence of a self only through intellectual investigation, it's not very easy to have a direct experience of that. It's difficult to have a direct experience of that kind of wisdom only through intellectual investigation. And that's why it's so important that we train in the path step by step, first with the foundation of the training in discipline, moving on to the training in meditation, and then finally coming to the training in wisdom. Because if we do it that way, then that's how we're going to become able to actually give rise to a unique, direct experience of the fact that there is no self. In the tradition of the Shravakas and Pratyekya Buddhas, there's often a reference to the 3 pitakas, the 3 baskets of the teachings. This is so important, these 3 baskets which teach the 3 trainings. This is emphasized in that tradition, but it's also essential in the context of Mahayana and Vajrayana practice to have as the foundation of our practice these 3 trainings. This is the foundation. So it's important for us to learn about these things and to learn this well and train in this well until we gain a direct, unique experience and realization personally within our own mind. Until that point, we have to keep training. That's why there are monasteries. That's why there are monastics in the monasteries. What are they doing there? They're practicing discipline. They're training in meditation. They're cultivating wisdom. And through this training and cultivation, they come to unique realizations and experiences that allow them to benefit and lead and guide others. To guide others who otherwise might be on the wrong path or leave the path behind and wander again and again in samsara. We need a teacher. We need some guide to help us avoid getting caught up in that. And so who is it in this world now who upholds the Buddha Dharma, who makes sure that it flourishes, who really keeps it going? Who does that in this world? The monastic sangha are so important for that. They do this. The monks and the nuns. And when we talk about the noble sangha, here we speak about arhats, male and female arhats, or male and female bodhisattvas. But when we speak about the sangha in our context, we're talking about monks and nuns. Monks and nuns whose mind streams are rich in the Dharma. And they are so precious and so important if we want the Buddha Dharma to remain in this world. And what do the monks and nuns do? They train in these 3 trainings. This is so important for them. And it's important for us to be aware of that and to respect the monastic sangha. But it's also important for all Buddhists, not just monks and nuns, to uphold and train in and engage in these 3 trainings. If we were to think, oh, that kind of practice, discipline, that's only for monks, that's only for nuns, that's a big mistake if we hold that view. In fact, this is the training for all Buddhist practitioners. The Buddha said, profound and peaceful. What does peaceful refer to? It refers to the training in discipline. Profound and peaceful. When the Buddha said those 2 words, with just those words, he summarized the key points of the Shravaka and Pratyeka Buddha vehicle of the teachings of the Buddha Dharma. And these teachings are preserved today in the world, in our world, in countries like Thailand and Burma and Sri Lanka. There are Buddhist practitioners there who are upholding this particular tradition of the Buddhist teachings, and there are really amazing practitioners there. I've been to Thailand and to Burma, and I've met some practitioners who were very learned, very disciplined, and very, very good. They were training genuinely in the 3 types of trainings. And I met practitioners who are so worthy of rejoicing in. Very, very incredible practitioners. We should all rejoice in their practice. The second turning of the wheel of the Dharma that the Buddha taught, in this verse, again, just this same verse, begins with the statement simplicity. So he said, profound, peaceful simplicity, perfect simplicity. And what does that mean? In some of the texts, that word simplicity, it says, there's another version of the verse in which it says, free from particles, immaterial, something like that. But I think it's easier, and the more common version of the verse says simplicity, simple, perfect simplicity. And what does that mean? It means free from the 4 extremes and the 8 conceptual proliferations. And what is it that is free from those 4 extremes and that kind of proliferation? It's the view of great Madhyamaka. Emptiness, simplicity. To make it easy to understand, that's what it's referring to, the view of emptiness, this perfect simplicity, free from any type of conceptual elaboration. And so previously, the teaching that we spoke about was the teaching on the absence of a self, right? But here, the perspective becomes vaster, in which we come to understand that everything within samsara and nirvana and the path, all of these phenomena are naturally empty. They're naturally natural emptiness, natural simplicity, natural freedom from any type of conceptual complexity. And then within this view, one trains in generosity, discipline, patience, diligence, and meditation. This is the way that one trains in the context of the great vehicle This training in the 6 perfections is so important. And that training here in realizing this view of emptiness is precisely what the Buddha meant when he said simplicity, or freedom from conceptual complexity. Freedom from complexity. And in that simple statement, he conveyed the key points of the view, the meditation, the conduct, and the result of the Mahayana. All of these key points are conveyed with just this simple statement. And the teachings of this tradition, the Mahayana Buddhist tradition, are preserved in our world in places like China and Korea and Japan and so on. These are places where the Mahayana teachings has spread and flourishes, continues to flourish, is present in our world. I've visited some of those countries myself as well. I've been to Hong Kong, I've been to China, I've been to Malaysia and to Singapore. And while I visited those places, I met some older practitioners, Chinese practitioners of the Mahayana. They are teachers who were very, they had few desires. They were totally content with what they had. They were practicing the Dharma genuinely, excellently, really genuine spiritual teachers. I met these teachers who were worthy of respect, extremely worthy of respect. We spent some time talking about the Dharma, and through those interactions, I felt these are truly, genuinely excellent Dharma practitioners. So simplicity, that's what we're talking about here. The training in the practice, in this practice, involves the training in the 6 perfections, the training in the 4 means of magnetizing, and so on. Basically, all of the trainings and practices of a bodhisattva. There are many people who train in this way, and it's something that is worthy of our rejoicing from the core of our hearts. Simplicity. This is my brief presentation about what this word means in the Buddhist statement, simplicity. If you try and cling to things as being existent, what happens? If you grasp to existence, there's no liberation. If you grasp to non-existence, even obtaining rebirth in the higher realms becomes difficult. It's not possible to hold on to both at the same time. You can't grasp things as being existent and non-existent simultaneously. So what then? Remain at ease within the non-dual state. This is the practice of being free from the 4 extremes, the 8 conceptual proliferations. And in the snowy land of Tibet, we received these teachings through the teachings of the 6 ornaments and the 2 supreme ones, these great Indian masters there who commented on the words of the Buddha, and their teachings were passed on and have been preserved and upheld in Tibet. Teachings on the 6 collections of Madhyamaka, they are preserved in Tibet, and many of them have been translated into English as well. For example, the Madhyamaka Avatara, the root text, as well as the commentary, the Mula Madhyamaka Karikas, the commentary on that called The Ornament of Reason. This is also translated into English. The Madhyamaka Alankara and Lama Mipam's commentary on this has also been translated into English. Many of these texts that teach this view have been translated and made accessible, and actually many of them have been translated by Dr. Thomas Doctor. If you are really interested in studying and reflecting and contemplating on this type of teaching, there is a lot of excellent material available for study. A lot of scriptures, teachings that preserve excellent instructions, pith instructions, and that are made available. And so this is, again, my short presentation about this statement that the Buddha made. Simplicity.
Tak 되니보다 삽시 쪼달라서 돈이 쪼라지 않느냐 버샤워.
The real essence is this: profound, peaceful simplicity. We need to remain in meditative equipoise within the state of emptiness, perfect simplicity. That's the real heart of it all.
사바 담에 또 셔럽 뒤줄에 잡을 쳐발라 인지 menshi 년중 약보지 거래 탑 탐진난도 초도 철바 년중 쪼시 약보지 지택 최제 생들이 닝보면도 삼백이 년중 약보지 여나 년중 틀 때는 추트 약보 쓴 거래 틀 때는 라바 추트 라바 약보 손 할 때는 아니 라바 띵에 냠내 줄에 약보 쳐 거래 라바 띵에 냠내 약보 줄 째나 라바 셔럽지 라바 다 당미 또 셔럽잖아 코트서리 됐도 어떻게 다 쪼들스 돈이 쪼르게 따와 똑바로 쳐발라 탑 매나 메타 매바타 닝지 쳐버려 닝지 첨보 생각했다 마하카루나 다 마하카루나 약보 여봐야나 로 예수님지 디트 바샤다 잡아 대다기래 소놈 주소 30몇 사기래 참니지 장수쌤이 약보지 줄었잖아 샴페인 자주쌈지 줄었잖아 되게 삼모동만이 이렇게 따와대 고아양 약벌렌트 그래 고아잠 맞지봐 무슨 용어터 랩트 그래 대소한 탑 촉도 줘봤대 잠니지 장수쌤 되래 장수쌤이 약보지 줄어였나 삼모동만이 또 그래 잡니지 자주 쌤 약보지 줄에 매나 퇴상 그 샤랍 같이 때나요 고아 지금마다 고아 등진다버지 고아다버지마다 줄에 쌌네 돈이 무슨도 또 미쳐버려 Actually, Dharma teaching is logic, common sense, common need, common logic, common need. Yeah, a science of mind, undeniable. This is not religion. Common logic, common need, common sense. If you investigate, if you really think, you will think, oh, the onerava, the temperava, the semarava, the lower memory was a rank around each year. What's the simju match but the joint the tenishari? Simju match, simju the second, the church second one another. Quadrant. 야, 된대지는 다 추세도 삼도 거도 그래. 지다 추세한테 지소의 열 셰자니 추래. 추네 셰자 람다네 양는데 셰자 디추래. 추네 셰자다. 람 기름바. 람 도술 다 단답 람 남샤 모보 솔롬 걸롬 멜럽 람사한다. 사추세한다. 다 대신도 디나네 다 깜데라던데. 삼모 돈이 쪼르게 따와 또 거는 매나 메타 메바데 찌르 라바 쳔tum지 라바레 라바 땡지 라바레 라바 셔럽지 라바레 다 다기 당매 생한테 파때 바 14로 땅데 그 고전도 삽으로 치네 최탐지 돈이 최탐지 동반예를 최탐지 쪼베 타탑지 달와 다기 셔반다시 숭는 남친시 버드 두베 초탐지 랑신지 덴바르 마토바 쟁가 네스도 탈바 따뜻 지라게 되네. 삼면나는 삼모래. 삼면나는 삽로도 왔다. 다게 대 담에 대 삼모래 되와. 대회장 삽로도 와. 다 뒷간라 닝짓. 타입의 심전 탐지 전부진인. 산제의 심전이 진짜바인. 산제 맨나 타르바다 탐지체베 람 도출게 rem바테 땡케민도스 믹메베 론다버레스 심제 맨나 안에 진소 젠바타야도 수중소야 소바고야 라소바 야스 차주스 비쩌베게 심민도스 산제 심전이 타르바다 탐지체베 도버차발라 까팅크차네 지바인 마체베 심지어 탐지 전부지 파만 마셔봐 직전에 따뜻 대생글로 우리 봤다. 상하게 대강라 때네 딱 양에 탄 쉬어. 다 당버티 주라. Sometimes I talk too much.
Not too much. We need to really see that this is the way things are, that this is genuine, that this is unfailing, that this is something that we can trust. And actually, if we really investigate the Dharma, if we really check, then we do have confidence. We will have confidence in it. Our problem is not really investigating. That's the problem. That's the flaw. That's what prevents us from really having genuine confidence and trust in the Dharma. If we check, if we investigate, then we will really be able to come to the confident conclusion that this is how things are. We will become able to do this. And we'll be able to see that everything is truly emptiness. And so the Buddha said, profound, right? He talked about the profundity of the absence of a self. And if we want to really give rise to that realization genuinely and directly in our own personal experience, having renunciation is indispensable. We have to have renunciation. We have to have renunciation and feel a sense of weariness with the samsaric condition. This is the best method for really coming to directly realize the fact that there is no self. We should look at the 8 worldly concerns and think, these are pointless. There's nothing meaningful here. And if we do that, if we have that kind of genuine renunciation, then our practice of discipline will be good. We'll be able to practice discipline correctly and well when we have that kind of renunciation. And if we practice discipline well, then what does that mean? That means that our practice of meditation will also go well. And if our practice of meditation goes well, that's what leads us to a direct realization of the absence of self. And that, again, is precisely what the Buddha meant when he said simplicity. So when we talk again about this view of emptiness, simplicity, that view, what's another thing that's extremely essential, extremely important for us to come to realize that? It's compassion. Great compassion, maha karuna. If we have this, if we have great compassion, then physically, verbally, and mentally, we will not be able to do anything harmful. We will not engage in any harmful deeds physically, verbally, and mentally if we have great compassion. We will naturally purify any kind of harm. And also, if we have great compassion, we will naturally gather incredible, inconceivable amounts of merit simply through the training in great compassion. So having love and compassion and bodhicitta present in our mind, this is, again, an indispensable condition for coming to realize the profound absence of self, and in particular, the realization of emptiness, simplicity, emptiness. If we have that kind of real love and compassion, we can not only understand intellectually that view, but we could actually come to a direct personal experience of it. So this is the best method, love, compassion, and bodhicitta. If we have this, we can realize emptiness directly. We can come to realize that everything is truly empty. We can come to understand the Dharma genuinely. We can understand the condition of outer objects that we perceive. Phenomena, when we say the Dharma, actually, it also has the sense of phenomena, things that can be known. So what does Dharma mean? It means that which can be known. It means the path, and it means nirvana. So many different meanings here. When we talk about the Dharma in terms of the path, again, here there's many different ways of presenting it. There are the different, the paths, the path of accumulation, the path of joining, the path of no more training, and so on. Many different presentations, traversing through the 10 Bodhisattva bhumis. There's many different ways in which the path itself is presented. But here, we're talking about the path that leads us to the direct personal realization of profound emptiness. And if we want to train in that path, our indispensable foundation is discipline. And then on the basis of discipline, we must train in meditation. And then that training in meditation leads us to being able to cultivate this genuine wisdom. And again, here we're talking about the wisdom that knows that there is no self. But that, if we take that, we talked first already about the absence of self, right? But if you take that a little bit further, more profound, if you go deeper, where do you arrive at? The fact that all phenomena don't have a self, that all phenomena are empty, emptiness, simplicity, everything from form up to and including omniscience. All of these phenomena are beyond arising, abiding, and ceasing. This view is a view that is profound among profound perspectives, right? Of course, the perspective that there is no self is already profound. But even more profound is this realization of the simplicity, the emptiness of all phenomena. And compassion. Compassion is essential. We need to recognize the kindness of all sentient beings. In fact, it's said that Buddhas and sentient beings are equally kind to us, equally kind. Without the Buddhas, without their teachings, we wouldn't know how to traverse the path. We wouldn't know how to train. We would be blind without the instruction of the Buddhas. But without sentient beings, we wouldn't have any objects of generosity. There would be no one we wouldn't be able to train in discipline without sentient beings. We couldn't be patient without them. Basically, all of the bodhisattva practices and trainings would be impossible for us without sentient beings. So actually, for us as practitioners, if we want to achieve awakening, Buddhas and sentient beings are equally kind if we're interested in, for someone who's interested in liberation. All sentient beings, moreover, are kind because they have all been our kind parents. This is the Mahayana view. And in Vajrayana, this is expanded even further. But first, Rinpoche said, first translate, and then I'll tell you about that. So I think that's what's coming.
Sabji tradal sala, Tony tradal susugutua. Tenjin Denjo Mai, but Chonga Yabo Maino, Techit Tender Mai, Chonga Yabo Maino, Banco Papa Lotto, Son Shabarella, Telangado do Seripe Chabachana, Chabachana, the Sanjay Song Chote, the Tender Dojori. Kanki, Kansa Kanki said. Salun Jangbin Dol Sola, Salun Jangbin Dosangatinala, Sanji, Kanki, Tenjin, Devon Jonga Tonga Tees. Tenjin Devon Jonga Tonga Tees. Churches, that's Sanji Sung, Church December. Church December is a Tenjin drawn, Jonga December, the Church Shepherd. Church Shepherd, the Carriorse. Kanki, Church Shepherd, Tishin Shepherd Shepherd. 대신 쉐바스다 준이 통그래. 소아래. 대소다 산제 수업 추출 땡들 되죠라 레바래. 다 땡들 그 남샤티 투몽 값기 땡들 남샤 전도니 값 땡들 남샤. 데 웃음 값기 땡들 남샤. 라바르도 상아 메 Oma veket kap ke tender ke namsha. Ta tender te kor sabron drone. Ta oma peke tender sengat khandich kelengre. Sena tinane ta oma taras yobare. Ta oma thanjur peke tender tope tak something. Tokpe tak something killing yori. Dinner Jutan table to dental. Chashel to dental. Tokpe tak some deba. So that dental quarterly sheets of Janga, this was a chenabaganga. Then Ripani Yaboyori, Lobson Chell and the Gabo Shetayor. Tender Cocortele Yabo, Jana Sanji Shetela, Ichi Tembo, Juli Chegri, Ichi Tembo, Juli Chenachus Yamle. Yabo Nakan Chagre, Tesota, Tenjin Jung Cola, Lobjo Yamunana Yabundo.
Profound, peaceful, and simplicity. So here we're talking about the view of emptiness. And the great master Nagarjuna said, there is no phenomenon which is not dependently originated, and therefore there is no thing that is not emptiness. So if we check and if we examine that, then all phenomena are interdependent. They're all interdependently originated. This is what the Buddha taught. And in one of the sutras, the Buddha said, if you see all phenomena, whoever sees all phenomena as interdependently originated, that person sees the Dharma. And whoever sees the Dharma knows the Dharma. Whoever sees all phenomena as dependently originated knows the Dharma. And whoever knows the Dharma knows the Tathagata, the thus gone one. So what that means is that person sees reality, suchness, just as it is. So the Buddhists taught dependent origination. They taught that all phenomena arise interdependently. And this is taught in the general vehicle. The interdependence is taught in different ways according to different vehicles of the teachings. There's the Sautrantika presentation of, for example, interdependent origination. There's the mind-only and middle way presentation of interdependent origination. And in particular, in the Madhyamaka presentation of dependent origination, it's extremely profound. The teachings there are extremely profound. It's in Madhyamaka, there's the Sautrantikas and the Sautantrikas and Prasangikas. There's different schools of Madhyamaka as well. And the Prasangika school teaches that, and when they teach about interdependence, they teach that all things are simply conceptual imputations. And they teach interdependence in terms of cause and effect and so on. There's so many different ways in which this is presented, extremely in extreme amounts of detail, lots and lots of detail. And you're all really smart, and you all are people who like studying. So if you're interested in the Dharma, then it's really good if you can study the Dharma, because if you study the Dharma well, what happens is that you'll have confidence in it. And when you have stable confidence in the Dharma, that really makes your practice go well. And so I really suggest to you to learn more about dependent origination.
These days, the circumstance is together through internet, you have no excuse. If you really want to learn and practice, there's so many teachings are available. So please, of course, many of you need to work, but you have a lot of time. Don't waste your time. This is my really from sincerely my request. Study and practice. Don't waste time. Time is running, and not wait us. We are getting older and older. Yeah. So, substitute dodals. That dodals. Don't eat dodals. That is don't eat dodals. Chokyi Rinpoche, Lobunchobo Chokyi Rinpoche dida sonto. Korwa tani nyangende, nisu yoba mayende, kowe ranshi sheba na chwe na datu nyangenda sonto. Te sonto ta, sheja sen tere ta. Te, sheja sen. Ta tanda nga zu, tsikti, nyembo ranga yao marite, nyembo mena yao ka ngoyo ki nesure. 가르에서 심지 출비 나와서 다당한테 출대요. 아밍알네 짤네 제네 소데 첸디 나와 만도 그 파르도는 아주 출대요. 제네 파르도 나와서 샤네 출바직 안에 나서도 출바니 데 멜람 닌줄지 출바스 니 니레 대 나서도 되네 다 파르도 쭉 남샤 따르시나 제네지 파르도 나와서 샤네 당아주 되었다 대 나와서 샤네 대들 나오면 초대서 가가 딱 바래 삼 당지 덴바레 삼베 덴지 랑케 르다 셴지 르 랑르라 차빠쳐보 셴게 르라 차빠쳐보 정와이서 메사베게 공부리 드라이 메이키 미상 세테다 다시 해서 맞춰나 짐바다 짝바리 다때 가서 드라 메이키 소쇼 잡아도 미 짐바다 미 짝바텔라 라버드 메이키 가르쳐서 짝바텔라 시다 짝바 침버질랑 아주 지요 대 아주 냔네 돼요 수분디나는 냔네 간 심심사 저 카드 사야 돼 좋아 약보여 봐 섭다 약보여 봐 주마 약보여 봐 사도 사네 되네 추숙하시 그래는 되네 저거는 주만하네 마도 거라 잡는 나도 루루요 그 루네 되네 마태요 거야 너나 대신도다 미상한테 랑키 룰라 여바래 셴지 룰라 랑신 얘가 그 룰라테 테 상주테 거라 니chen 두두도 냔데요 이나야 대상만이 삼자래 메상발라 메딱발라 딱버진 메덴발라 덴버진 메상발라 짱버는 다 티강라 다 도슈트 딱 메블라 딱 둔진 당진 다 출도 다 들어서 출도 나와샤 출출더부터 고린더부 시에다 다 들어서 출네 대도 다 대낭세 될라다 삼대지 바르도서 다 가르쳐 버려 신의 거야 상통 거야 제렘 거야 또 조렘 거야 다 틀렸는데 삼대지 바르도 숨체 다 치카 그 바르도 치카 나르죠 바르도다 시체 되는 어서춘이 바르도 되게 나체 세발레지 바르도 좋게 딱 데려서나 바르도 나네 다 알아서 제대로 바르도 나네 제대로 바르도 샤네 돼요 한다 티값으로 다 용화하리도 멜람 닌주 값으로 용화 찍바 주는 거야 티값으로요 덴바르지 봐 딱바르지 봐 짱바르지 봐 다든지 별로도 돼요 티값으로 도와 텔라테 멜람 닌주지 바르도 서 땡아주 니쿠고요 니쿠세데 시와라 보지리 시스가 간데 용사데 삼나 니쿠바나시세 니데 공에 셰바 कुछ लोग दूते जल ढोड़ते ये ना ये वो कि जो आते ये बाल ते ना यहाँ नहीं सह यार ओ ताते शिवा से तो खाते जो शने पैसे ना शेरे ऐसे सोचा था बाल्टो ठोक ना ने ताते चेने पार्टो शाने ते जो यार ते सोचा तो आज छः से तो खान जोंचो चेकर मातो चिवा ने ङेजेंरे ते आज गांगा हाकोरे 치제네 녜메레 대양아저 하고래 락바르드 남치 참에 있어야 돼 아주 최바츠가 티순가 삼라 땅 야야야 샤르고래 티 나네야 남치 참에 있어야 돼 야야야 샘레 텐토바 고래 치와 일라 텐켄테 최베체니 치와 일라 메텐게테 최바 많이 베체니 다 최바드 최빈 기 체니 샤나 된다 샤요 대 마체 베게다 lune duchere duce tamche duce yeba tamche 신용 거래 매도 거래 lune duce 바데 제 제네 마셔반 직전지 캄들로 수직 라야 말. 레레사 라요는 가랑 이바 인식이래. 다 숨바테 체레 체여다. 체레 체여다. 독셔들. 체레 체면은 되는 아주 로 야타몽 대토라. 체레 체여. 어디를 삼았다네. 너는 메타바테 야야 가서 삼트나 메타 취치 꿀마인 세소아래. 야 대나네 다 토모테베 값을는 년중티 쫄때네 냠내 나와래. 년중도 같이 줄잖아. 디지게 된 대열라 차생게 쳐봤대. 마 얄도요. 대열라 차생게 쳐봤대 마 차용도 안에 개술당 개론 개념당 개념 맞게 넘버소야래 렐라버 쳐요. 렐라버. 틀을 때는 때땡에 줄지 렐라버 쳐. 틀을 때는 시럽게 냠내대. 줄 자 갈쳐봐요. 매 렐라버 쳐요. 태소서 때는 메타 조셔서 약부지 줄면은 최샤마지 치킨 차가 말해. 땀난 거 최마도. 맛에 가르쳐버려. 메타 조셔서 샘텔 쫄랑라 저 용거. 쫄랑라 저걸 샤샤나 티티야 배도 가면 버려. 티랑랑 두고 다야 버려. 조셔텔 때네 딱 냠레피 타버지 쳇도 버려. 야나 토몽 티비게 따금 쫀데게 냠레 쳇도 버려. 야나 택받침벽 따금 쫀데게 냠레 쳇도 버려. 딱 들어지고 그래. 대상아 생에 택받침벽에 냠레게다. 낭세다고 샤나 되게 상아. 딱 오야 당부터 주라. 삽시 드들스 오르다 드들스. Oh, Tommy, I don't know how long we have time.
1.5 to 2 hours, however long. 1.5 to 2 hours, however long.
What did you go on?
1.5 hours gone, but please.
Okay.
Profound, peaceful, and simplicity. Simplicity here refers to the view of emptiness, perfect simplicity, freedom from conceptual constructs. The great master Dignaga said, samsara and nirvana are not two things. If you know the nature of samsara, that itself is nirvana. So when we speak about Dharma here, we're speaking about that which we can come to know. And among the things that we do need to come to know is something that maybe doesn't sound very nice, but it's true. And that is the fact that sentient beings, the experience of sentient beings is diluted. We are deluded. From the moment we're born, from our mother's womb, until we take our last breath, our experience as ordinary sentient beings in the Bardo of this life is an experience of delusion. And then on top of that, within the Bardo of this life, there's another Bardo, which is called the Bardo of double delusion, the dream Bardo. There are actually 6 Bardos, 6 intermediate states. And the one that we're in right now is what's called the Bardo of this life. And while we're present in the Bardo of this life, our experience is like this. We look around at all these things and we hold on to them as being something that's going to last. We think they're going to last. We look around at all these things and we think this is real. And we have grasping or fixation to the reality of things. With respect to our own bodies and the bodies of others, we feel attachment to those bodies. And we think, oh, this is clean. When in fact, it's just a heap of impurity. Actually, if we think about what is unclean from a human perspective, to use the not very respectful words, pee and shit, those are the things that we think are the most disgusting, isn't it? And where are those things? With us all the time, inside of us at all times. When we eat food, it looks so pretty, it smells nice, it looks really great. Once it's inside of us for a few hours and it's, moving around in our intestines and starts rotting, and then it comes out, right? And so we think of those things, that excrement, as being so disgusting. But that disgusting thing is right now and all the time at every single moment in your body and also in the body of others. The toilet is there with you all day long. And yet when we look at other people, when we look at our bodies, we think, oh, that's clean. So grasping to something that's unclean as being clean, that's part of our experience of delusion here in the Bardo of this life. We also look at things that are impermanent and we think that's going to last. We look at phenomena that are not real and we think that's real. We look at these bodies which are unclean and we think that's clean. And the worst one, the worst delusion that we have is that where there is no self, we grasp to there being a self. We think there's a self when there isn't. And this is what is called deluded experience. And that is the deluded experience of sentient beings, the deluded experience that we undergo while we're here in the Bardo of this life. There's another Bardo, a third one, that's part of the Bardo of this life, and that's the Bardo of meditation. And that is when we're engaging in practice like shamatha, vipassana, the generation stage, the perfection stage, and so on. This is the third among the 6 Bardos, the Bardo of meditation. The fourth one is the painful Bardo of dying. And then the 5th is the luminous Bardo of dharmata. And the 6th is the karmic Bardo of becoming. So these are the 6 Bardos. One comes following the next. But here we are now in what we call the Bardo of this life. And what is our experience like? As I just said, it's an experience of delusion. And then when we fall asleep, we experience the dream Bardo of double delusion, because in our experience during the dream state, we perceive things in the same deluded way in the dream that we do during our waking state, right? We also think of things as being lasting when they aren't. We also look at things in our dream and think that they're real when they aren't. We also look at things and we look at ourself. We think we have a self. We look at things that are impure. We think it's pure and so on. All of that happens also in a dream. So that's why we call it the Bardo of double delusion, the dream Bardo. And actually what happens when we fall asleep is kind of similar to the process of dying. So if you wonder what is it going to be like to die, well, it's similar to falling asleep. What happens is that the 5 sense consciousnesses dissolve into the all ground, and we basically just faint, lose consciousness. Because we're still breathing, then we wake up again when we fall asleep. But otherwise, the process of falling asleep is a good example. It's similar to the process of dying. Here again, among the 6 Bardos, the one that we find ourselves in at the present moment is what's called the Bardo of this life. And it's important. What should we do during the Bardo of this life? What's important for us to do? We should practice the Dharma as soon as possible, right away. And why is that? Well, death is certain. We all know that, don't we? We are going to die. But the conditions that will bring about our death are uncertain. We don't know how we will die. In particular, we don't know when we will die. The time of death is uncertain. For a Dharma practitioner, this is something that we have to think. These 3 statements, these 3 facts are things that we have to think about again and again and again, especially, I don't know when I'm going to die. That's really important. The definition of somebody who is a Dharma practitioner is someone who thinks about death. The definition of someone who's not a Dharma practitioner is someone who doesn't think about death at all. So to be a practitioner, we have to contemplate death. And how do we know that we're going to die? Well, this body is a conditioned thing, isn't it? And every conditioned thing is going to be destroyed. It's going to end at some point. And also, there's nobody who's been born so far who hasn't died, right? Who's still around. If there had been one person who was born and hadn't died, then we could have the hope I might be the second. But there isn't. We don't have an example for that. Everyone who has been born has died. And the third point is that our life has a limit. We have a lifespan, and it's not an unlimited lifespan. That would be great if there were no limit to our lifespan and we could just live for hundreds and hundreds of years, but it's not how it is. We don't. Our lifespan is limited. And those facts, those facts of impermanence are things that we need to contemplate again and again and again. Thinking about impermanence again and again and again is essential for our practice because it's actually what inspires us to practice. And in the general vehicle of the Buddha Dharma, there's a big focus on renunciation, right? Focusing on impermanence and giving rise to renunciation on that basis. Having a sense of renunciation with respect to the sense pleasures. Because if we cut through our attachment to the sense pleasures, and if we cut through our fixation to our own attachments, then what happens is that we're able to practice well. And that's why monks and nuns who train, and lay people as well, who train in this vehicle, the fundamental vehicle, through cutting through their attachments, they're able to maintain their vows properly. And when you maintain your vows easily, then it's easy to practice meditation. And when you practice meditation effectively, it's easy to give rise to wisdom. That's why it's really important to progress in this way. It's very beneficial. And so renunciation or weariness with samsara and contemplating impermanence and feeling weariness with samsara is essential. Because if we don't contemplate impermanence and feel weary with samsara, we can't practice the Dharma correctly. We won't practice the Dharma correctly. We might do something that looks like Dharma practice. But it's not actually Dharma practice if we haven't really taken impermanence to heart. And we haven't really felt a sense of renunciation or weariness with samsara. And so thinking about the fact of impermanence and feeling this sense of weariness with samsara, a sense of sadness, actually. Our mind feels a sense of sadness. We feel sad with respect to impermanence. But if we just feel sad and then leave it there, then that's pointless, right? Because you're just giving yourself a hard time and not getting anything, not doing anything helpful with it. So we should contemplate impermanence. We should feel a sense of sadness and weariness with samsara, but let that inspire Dharma practice. Whether you're practicing the general vehicle of the teachings, the view, the meditation, the conduct, and the result of the general vehicle of the teachings, or practicing the view, the meditation, the conduct of the great vehicle, whatever. It should be that our weariness with samsara becomes the inspiration for that practice. And then Vajrayana we can consider a part or an aspect of Mahayana Buddhism.
아주 쫄충 집이 쌤, 아주 로아미 쌤도 쫄충 집이 쌤이 말해라. 매대 주미 취지 쫄충 집이 쌤도 룬이 돼요. 룬이 되게도 뭐도 딱지하다나 하고 그래. 랑가라 하고 루고요바 하고 그게 티원도 당셔요 그래. 다 티원도 마땅하지 저래. 너는 티원도 마땅하지 저래. 랑게 쌤도 답하지 그래. 쌤들, 쌤그 춘이 대신이 제한테 딱 와시한 받지. 대냠슬랑 틀을 땜바터 버쳐버려. 대마다 다 단단하죠. 쌤들 쫄충충 집에 쌤으로 보죠. 이거 말에는 대 매대 주미 취줄르니 되어들. 다 처 마코 캠메게 루고에 바하고 말대. 다 처를 때 대섬 샤랍 때르 오늘 알루도도 나랑 하고 그래. 달루도도 슈시블루도도 되게 배트커 되게 왕 주드론 라메바 되게 왕 지마 저 삼기 되게 왕한테 주고요 되게 왕도 친의 야부 매바 하 고게 되게 왕 당셔 잡다래서 근데 뿐이 근데 매대 주면 쳐들 잡다래서 근데 뿐이 그가 티쳐요 들으세요. 근데 진짜 같다. 랑고 꼴. 랑도 녀생이 되리. 이나야 때서 담배 취를 장반 매나? 전 고쳐 말인데. 고 며칠도 맹텔라 람토르 시비 코로 참세 수여르데 공어요 근내 소리데. 그래서 전에봐 짱보 중보샤다를 때 제발 나는 저런수도 챙기랬대. 이나야 티콜 도나나로나.
We human beings The human mind is a very childish, gullible mind. All of these unreal, illusory things are fooling us all the time. Fooling this childish, gullible mind of ours. Check. If you check, this is what's happening. And the thing is that we know it's happening. And while it's happening, we just go with it. Even though we're aware that we're being fooled by these unreal phenomena, still, we just let it happen while knowing it's happening. And we have to stop this. We have to gain some kind of control over our own mind. We need to take ownership of our own mind. And we do this through recognizing the nature of our mind, familiarizing ourselves with that recognition and gaining stability in that. Because otherwise, our minds are just childish. They're just gullible. They're just constantly being fooled by these illusory, unreal things. And look, if somebody has never heard teachings about the Dharma, they don't know that they're being fooled by all these unreal, illusory things, right? That's one thing. But if we study and reflect a little bit, if we've heard a little bit about the Dharma, we are aware that we're falling under the sway of all of this delusion. We are aware that these unreal, illusory things are fooling us all the time. We know it's happening, and while we know it's happening, we just let it happen. And we place all of our trust in these things that we know are not trustworthy, in these illusory, unreal things. We place all our confidence there. We go for refuge in these things. We do this, and we know we're doing this, and we are fooling ourselves. We're just fooling ourselves. But again, if somebody hasn't studied the Dharma, then they wouldn't know this. And not having studied the Dharma, not having that awareness, that's what it means when we say being on the wrong path or leaving the path behind. We wander in samsara. That's what happens. That's really true. And you're all really smart people, so just think about it a little bit. Just investigate a little bit, and you will know that this is true. But please don't just be aware of it. Please really consider this. Consider this fact about our experience.
Kusam olam nala sundo rari sola debala sisum jigja nganda me se ta te wama te rari pe yishe ngoshan ne te rangzu sin te ngang chong no sisum jigja jigja me seba sumte rari sola debala sisum jigja nganda me sore de ote sota Kandar Mitakba Yimbat Shenkodu Sakbetama sending, Dubetama Daldo, Zekbetama Jaldo, Jevetama Shido. Kanga Kitchi Judo. Tesoda Meta Joshi sending Arangatul Kasi Putabochi Jetta Tijik and other Choyapo change Chakre. 대소서 틀라 관계 동남첨보 나네 당보 내지 따와 검바 생한테 라바 야 마셔 맞찬 당보 연중 조시하고 지줄 jet톱나 틀라 때네 안 냠래기를 바강가 냠래하고 jet톱에 차그래 대소서 다스 마보 마셔 맞지 삽시 드달체 다 틀라 때네 대파침불로 따와 곰바 쥐바 제부 속 납샤 여버래 대소라 롭존난다 야보도 섭시드르스 다 의살스 시키도 의살스 시키도 가와데 의살스한테 때 가게달도 도모 데네스 나는 도에 사버도 되네 대파침불 쇼노 나는 도에 때 의살스 시키도 다 가봐도 Vessel is a juganalishanayo. Jaju, Nanjur Anamiju. Yanatia over yoga, Maha and Ati. What a judith on the vessel, vessel charges chimbos, vessel jopachimbo, soda, vessels. That's it. Jutapa Yiba Lasso Benani, 심게 남네 상징이 완전 로브르 팀에 딥 디마테스를 산지 손주 다 다기 담에서 셔바다 돈이 쪼달서 소아이 송바를 다 다단 대회장 쪽 가득 카살버지 근토는 심자탐지 심기 실리 얘네 중이 대신이에요 알았어 뺀나 어마나 마르지 차밤 뜰레 띠마르 차바리 낚시 알았어 뜰때 맞으나 뜰기 놈도 칠 된거 말했어 대신 이제 로고 심자탐지 심시 실리 얘나야 냠수 말라나 안에 좋았다고 말해 냠술라나 심지 수이나야 좋았다고 그랬어. 가르에서 대신 이번 로고열을 잡히칠 소리. 대소서 외살서 다 외살서 다 tel라 되네 살동 대동 살신 동라 동시 대 살동 있으면 봐 대동 있으면 봐 리동 있으면 봐 손은 도르나 습지 춘이 있어야 된다 다 습지 춘이 또 거래 습지 춘이 또 치르들라 다 유대침 보고서 다 다시 시험하는 유대 되는 라다 가르쳐 열잖아 신진의 자체 보서 찌르더니 춘이 그봐 라버들 루 도르줄 루데 잘로테레 자로 마타나 잘로테레서 독숨 다나 꾸숨 대자숨 콜로투 라서봤다 다 이시심 불륜네 소야 라서봤다 냠술 랑술 센다 마다바지다 예바래 다때다부 냠술 야 랑술 치마시시 랑워 샤발라 지르년종 조시 다게 고도 샤바나시 디나네 잠nin지 자주 섬도 뷰다버지 그 토라 다 가르고 알았어 다 먹고 당나서도 고 다 대갈 가보시라 틴레 때네 토모텍바 레 파신지 택바데 깔레카고요 아 파신 택바 레자 상하게 따금 전에게 남샤한테 출신도 염살라 깔레카고요 썸니 쇼야 깔레카고 다 먹고 당나서 쓰들 다 먹고 당나 술을 장거래 나시 닭바람 좀 레 얘네 나시 시비 쳐담 얘네 닭바래 나시 단념처부 공부해서 이제 다 주대 날 수고요 다 tellatene 오늘 전에 질 도목에 대봐 라바르트 파르친치 대봐 라 장바야 보지 맨다 tel라 보지 다 고알렌토 말 이나양 다표 강진지 종라 산지의 최sul 때 냠술 랑수의 림바 마라와 숨제 퇴섭 따위 룩 공바 맹아 룩 진라 퍼위 룩스 룩 넘바 숨 여변나네 퇴섭 따위 룩스 건데 칼레 여베게 샤다테 공바 맹아 룩스도 퇴섭 기체라시라 마셔바체네 안에 맹아 조르 되네 근데 로도 넘바시 고메야 되네 원로 몸가 상상체 제렘도 조렘게 냠술 랑술게 치 살포 소네 제조게 냠술라야 되네 대단 절베게 샘정게 냠술랑 샘정 냠레체 다틴조 라 공바 맹아클로 송거래 다 공바 맹아클로 때 냠술랑 어르셔발라 다 왕kur 유치 맹아땐 세테 토네 다 샘지 주니데 라메 ngote 라메 ngote 되네 ngang 되네 템바톱네 dro바타바레 어테다베다 냠술랑수티 다 외살 시티네요 substitute 외살 드마치에서 외살 드마치 샘지 라시데 동살 송주 드마치레 동살 니 그걸라 딱시니 아주 나버산집에 좀때 딱시니 기타는 대바이 있어요 동살 코란이 그걸라 딱시니 드라시키 팅걸라 yar시 메드레 동살 송주 팅니스베바레 드마체도 제가 내수도 잡아래. 어때서서 따테파송그 냠네 자수기를 번 도르르 좀지 때네 대값을 봐라 되네 대래 총거로 저절에 den시 소화를 덴바시다 덴바시 지나서 폐체 대바시게 남샤데 빼자로 만용에 지당 denshi kukoro chiransu tu manyo ken shira yuji mare tenre le tenye nge tenre denshi kukoro de shib sabu shu me la ta dungal ji tenpa dungal yore mepo le dungal yore yopo le dungal yore dungal kharang ke dungal yore dungal namba sum ki jalin dagi mare chaban duji ji dungal yore na chocho ca chocho yore chaban duji ji dungal ki dungal jiru dungal tanda ponchi lemne nesu dusha kweda lamsa tai ha ha ho kaka totu che yori nesu dusha che pon lemne lamsa ngugre te khande to juru dungar so dungar na paso rewa ya dungare toba ya dungare takba ya dungare dungar chame pa che yori te so ta dungar ganga le jume pa mare ne le ju yori 나게 체르마르지 수나 규체마 수발에 때네 드부 나수 당해요. 다 나수데 매바 저거 체마도 꺼거래. 체마도 꺼나 나수도 매바샤. 체마도 마커고 버들 나수도 나수 매바샤요. 솔라 땀는 되게 말해. 솔라다. 플라곰 가다 잠지게 용 말해. pe kap de de nyamso langora ta nyamso langso karre ta chano chi thwa te legere ta nyamso langso karre ta nyamso langso saje ku chusu sangba chun dor duti ta ta khont demba shi tela ya ta ki khont shoba na shi nyarang kap ki demba shi teshe kap ki demba shi nga kap ki demba shi te tes ma sabr jacher sabr sanje ke su chusu tama zu debashina le dutuyor dromshi se to atinsa drom shaver drom robot shiden robot debashina le manduba masamba yo mare te so ta junde ni sa junde jup konjong le tene debu dongal ju lamchi dempa le tene drebu gokpa dempa ta tere chene junre chene denshi meta chutuk so son yore tenzo kora ta tere mambo shugaya mendo charansu mambo tö sare te mambo lo sare ina ya ta tere tö kalbo chekashe chi shuya la ta sanga dorji tepeki nyamlengi nyingbo te semki chunyi sere ina ta semki chunyi tokpar chabala ta kari chakore keche ten yore tela tösam tabi luktardu che na yang sem chuchuni tato gore. Yang na gomba menga ke luk tö na yang sem chune lu tato gore. Ta lama tokpa tombo chek tang loma kora wangbu yangrab chek. Jawa mabu na cho sa cha, dikpa ta cha, korang wana chane, tenre ke chek sang je chok cho chek. sem chune lu washen 속초 지금 강사 왕부 양럽지 여바이 라마야 또파 톰보 지금 라럽기 때문에 릭나 되네 왕꾸로 잡지게 왕도지 신와처밤 jut샤바단 잡지게 주든지 주주든 또밤 맹아 땜바 잡지게 되네 춘지 내로 또밤 다참로 때때 semji nelo ngothabam datsamla matene tu ishichambo tat samjeke tene lalu gomba chikpa chaya tene chungare shinto ne je gombore te chanasu ngarje telota narok pendawa tela tene kharisgire isane tela tene chila phobelo chila phobelo ta chila tamchi jinana chotu chorbate chunji nelu 원숨도 또 되게 되는 제신 집부 담바 텔라 대대 춘이 내로 지마치쇼 못해 또 내봐요. 텔라 되는 dorjul löbü lama dorjul löbü tel nübati demba asayte nübati demba chuni nelu tokpa tel nübati demba tokpe datol tuji sentro dur o lama tindich gor lama 오 텔라 로마 텔라 깔바 대바서 왕부 양럽 단다 샤바나시 년중 쪼시 rab여봐 잠닝지 rab여봐 대바도 묵은 유라메바 여바지 따틴지 여바이나 라로그 템렌진데 때네 초사 딥자 마보체 마고와 퇴섬 그 싫어 마보 땐 마고와 때네 텔라 텐데 질라 퍼벨로 서 강진 지종로 대답은 냠설 랑소를 바마라와 순가 다르지요. 대나라 다 상하기 냠래. 게 양보지 제벌 다 무구도 당나도 가르쳐버려. 당나 솔 거래서나 라말라 당나 여바점지게 팽 말에 체돌로 당나 거래. 체돌로 당나 여바점지게 팽 말에 심제 탐제라 당나 거래. 심제 탐제 마이 전부치 선백게 삼수직 심지면은 아사제 탑자님이 심지 그까지는 같았어. 다르바트 탐지시면 아사제 심지 그까지 섬에도 니 되는 수바테 심지 탐지 생시를 춘이 대신에 여봐서다 산제의 심지니 그 심지 그 생시다 산지 두고 시적만이 로브로 트맥 딥잠마도 벤르타 다 탈베케 르부치 니유의 징 담삽 그징 담삽 그 마케바지 니유의 꽃집어 지자래 최종 집발에 공시 집발에 이난 담삽 그 거소도 미사와라고 차소래 대소서 텐데게 되는 당나야고지 줄을 제발 에나 네 티갈라 무구스 다 무구 무구스가 되다 고치쳐버려 다 텔라 가르쳐 거라서다 제다 산적이 출루강가 대발에 대비 젠장스 출루강가 대비 젠장 준세 셰비 대비 젠장지가 여래 준세 시라 마셔나야 대바지 여래 대비 젠장 이여 준세 양타버시네 대비 제서 나와지 준세 랍랍 지시네 대비 젠장 출루강가 대 디나라 산제비 출루라 다 대발을 뭐뭐 다음에 대반 대비 대바 이셰비 대비 친미도 대바서요 디나라 다 상아 도르지 테베 깝게 대바트 간디지 고래 해서 나 대바트 되네 대신 꼼배 가사케 자동초라 나시지 샘지 내로데 마도나 같이 연어야 강 연어야 다 닝보 민도 추싱 다버려도 추싱 세대 베나네 동벌 파다는 거 전부 집어버려줘. 그 박바지 슈니 숲슈슈 나 동버 동자리 님부 메세. 어때나시 때 가나요 대 로조 땀냐다 가요 간 좀네 님부 미도 삼바지. 데레게 되네 무구주 거를 무구 메션 커바지. 다 데레를 되네 대삼지 내로 워셰는 앙종네 때부터는 두바터요. 대영의 잡아라 다 왕꾸르 주시 맹아텐스다 상하게 추수를 냠서 랑순 도르두 잠지 테레 대다 외살 생각들 두고 외살 듣자와테 외살스 두고다 뭐 레라버에 초지도서 심전 남는 산진이 가리 깨져 예보 간도 대차고 맞아 가가 산지를 사 심전에 심지 실어요 그래서 이나야 다 텔레 디미 바차 딥세다 다 디바 텔라다 가래서 년접다 셰드브세 다 년접세 가래서 지다 잔요토 년년이시 당진다 댕진도 다 년접래 다 셰드브세 가래서 지르 코르스 똑바도 셰드브래 자라도 다 맹아 글로르잖아 아니 셰드브래 얘네 가래요 준진 대단한 초도 준바래서 준바를 지나 준진 주마다버리 멜랍다버리 삼지 대코스 따부 생각이 되고 말이야. 얘네 되게 sakshiki tewa te ma cha tuwe yore mato. Tende te shente, tong zinsi, tong pare, simzirza. Todare, todale. Tongji tore sheba te, tongji toba ta tongji tra, simziso. Te zimbare. Junjin, tongjin, todare te zimbare. Tenzo te shedrub kosu topare, menga kulurante, menga kulurante. Tende yin batang, tatsun dordono chwe, 냠소 간데 랑고래 제가 랑나 때 산지게 가르소네 산지 최대 가르래 산지 최대 냠소 랑소 간데 장 랑고선 득바지에 메시지 개와포스 좀 랑게 셈네 요소도 딘데 산지 땜바이 상아서 야야 간제 망보나리요래 간전나는 녀부 딱 봐라 시간 좀 된 거야. 아주 가가 된 거, 처럼 된 거예요. 얘는 늘 샤야 말해. 냠술로 해야 돼. 택받지야 미자싱스 미가 와주티 빵거래. 빵게도 미도 딱 그래 가라. 빵도 나한테 지수를 하죠. 라라를 지수해라서 딱 가보죠. 딱 땅아 밀리도 된된 차도 들은 게 최개와 야보체도 미가 와지야 재미도 칸 승행제가 시면도 남도 년바지가 줄을 쯤에도 아 따튼데 야가라 당랑 오늘은 냠레배하고 차도서 랑크랑을 강구해라지 다 들이다 승행바다보다 남도 년바다보다 샤샤르소노 소제 마지멜은 돌아서도 지금 말했대 가들 주다 타마 추수 가자리 용어도 하면도 납슨 넣어서 용어도 하면 전 대 독서 딱 냠내 자고래 대 독서 소 잡았어야 될 시라게 표현 쳐봐요. 표현 가려 열어서는 나랑기 심진 시행 소 잡아 잠지 말이 tellatene pena setan rabachi tangayena ane ngaranso lama tavan zom ane dode jula chilapte malamchap tachava jema delat te pena ngaju to lo taware she nya milin thlakla chi setar tangayare te kapsul ngaju lama tawa kangka ta nya de 대대 체야랑 뭐지 추나리 제잡 집어야고 조용하지 내 값이라 다 컨트롤 신에 밀류야고 밀류 다르진 조르지서 밀류로 보죠 토버쇼 톱달라마 개외신이 센텐스 잡아쇼 잘네 당화 사모죠 토버쇼 당화 사모 튀는 냠래야 지체터건지 줘버쇼 때 컨트 탑이 람네 심버쇼 람나 컨트 상제버쇼 땅어서 몰랍다나 때 삼려야고 땅당 아주 심심 밀린 찍었다. 먼저 전에 탈별람 땡캔치 차서. 근데 저는 아주 섬로단 거. 될 때는 짐바 땅서 짐바라데 짐바 랍티 담바 추지 짐바. 근데 임바라데 소서 샴페인게 자가 제수로 좀다 넣어두시는데 되게 재미있어서 겨우 좀 써봤죠. 다른 게 쓰는 용수 놀래야 될다. 먼저 야야 참년지지 찬출스네 내조도 조시게 심주 꿀세 다티 갈치시래 참다니지 심주 렌세다 갈치시지 다 동이 저렇게 냠렌 세다 다티 냠서 라마라리 만다봐요 사버도 차치치별로 리나 되네 강사 주벨 라마 대시 까이 라마 나와 다이 라마 실 라마 소야레세 되네 전점 시지 라마스 치 라마송 가든을 때네 난게 라마 라네게 이시 란조게 르바 데메 시지 네로 대와서 데마체케네 sabshitrara wasa dema chete sabshitrara wasa dema chete chima chishi ande to barchala chen sum jang kore khasa jube lama te jinsi nisi juba sang lama chi lama topa ngontu chorba te topa te lama ta tada ngara pa de sa lama te sul tenge te le nyam to yak bo yokin chi inchi mi ji nyam to yak bo yokin chi ta ko yo lama tela tene da tela tene karisirase deshi kai me khasa jube lama sa deshi kai lama sa devarshi so kata tenju tele deshi kai lama sa tene nawa dai lama dedere nawa dezu ka gala tene nala rashi me bare chetam nala rashi me bare te so da tri ro riksala so ka tene nala rashi me bate ke 냠레 제발 냠레를 펜토그래 텔레 착바타 셴바 마셔버서 제 차지시 뭐 냠레 제 디스물라 텐데 텐담 시질라마테 따랑기 셈기 주니데레 어테테 데레스 냠슬랑 거레 데소달 치 라마숨데 메다 메타 메베레 텐템벨라마테 랑기 셈기 주니데레 텐템벨라마테 랑릭비 이셰데레 Rari be shit the top of Chabala, that chi lamatu to tengore, chi lame cantil, nanki lamiki chuni to talk to go. What that rit hearts of China Casanama, the Chibo Chasare, Chibo Chasu, Chusu is reso, touching the Chusu Kashe, that Nobio, that lamate, catch a mama shoji shashat. Tanga to touches somewhere to Chixina, Kashe Gago, that Yawashes, several days of pencil, then got in the do. Cotere, ko denshi teta nga zo mabu kwa tsari. Ming denshi labaramita, tunda ngoma sanchi ki chusul ganga kongki, nenga drabata tere sheso. Te naana ya tene, tekpa sumting galme redu, ya taha koso tekpa sumting galme du, ganga sanchi rangi shalme sundu. Karo eso, lalita barsita, ke donala, unya tanda tenda salvo shiraji du. Ta te kowa te lento so saba tenda yongare, tenda yonga ngara gabu tu tuji che, tene 84,000 ke management check chuzu gangala tuji che ta kacha mambo shane tung chana diga mare ring chana diga mare ina ya tanga de kacha she pa ma maso ina ya chenza ma gangala de tupe de se na so ningi she sha bare tuji che
In the Dzogchen Khunsang Munlam, the aspiration prayer of Samantabhadra, it says, while remaining directly in self, in the recognition of awareness, if the three worlds were destroyed, there would be no fear. So if we recognize the nature of our own awareness directly and remain within that recognition, then even if the three worlds were to collapse, even if the three worlds were to fall apart, there would be no fear at all. And that's why it's important for us to begin, though, our path by recognizing impermanence, recognizing that everything that is gathered together will run out, that all meetings end in parting, everything you build is going to fall down, and birth ends in death. We should recognize that fact of impermanence and feel a sense of weariness with respect to that. And the degree to which we contemplate impermanence and feel weary because of it, to that degree we will be able to practice the Dharma genuinely. And so it's very important that we take this seriously. And I make the request to all of you to really take this seriously and contemplate this fact. Don't just, from the very beginning, think, oh, the view, the meditation, and jump straight into something. Start with renunciation. Start with feeling weary about samsara. If you start from there, your practice will be good. Your practice will go well. And so here, we're talking about profound, peaceful, and uncompounded, or perfect simplicity. And these three words, profound, peaceful, and simplicity, these words bring together the meaning of the general vehicle and the Mahayana teachings. The word simplicity brings together the meaning, the view, meditation, conduct, and result of the Mahayana. And it's very important for us all to learn very well about this. The next statement is luminous. So where do we find that teaching? The teachings on luminosity. Do we find them in the three Pitakas? Do we find them in the Mahayana texts? Where do we find these teachings? Where do we find these instructions about this term, this word, luminous, that the Buddha mentioned? We find this in the Tantras, the Kriya Tantras, the Charya Tantras, the Yoga Tantras, the Yoga Niruttara Tantras. Or otherwise, we can talk about it in terms of the Kriya, Upa, Yoga, Maha, Anu, and Ati Yoga tantric teachings. This is where we find instructions on luminosity, the luminous Mahamudra, the luminous Great Perfection. This is the teachings that we find in the Tantras. And in Tantras like the Hevajra Tantra and so on and others, it's mentioned, sentient beings are Buddhas, but they are obscured by the temporary stains. And when those stains are cleared away, their Buddhahood becomes manifest. Sentient beings are Buddhas. That's what it says here. Previously, we talked about the fact that we lack a self. We talked about emptiness and simplicity. But here in the Tantric teachings, it's stated that sentient beings are and have always had the nature of the Tathagatas, Buddha nature. It's always been present within us. We've always had that. And what is it like? What's the example to explain how it's present within us? It's like butter is present in milk, or sesame oil is present in a sesame seed. If you don't press the sesame seed, you won't get the oil out. If you don't practice, your Buddha nature won't become manifest. So we have to practice the Dharma in order to gain that accomplishment that comes through training and practicing. But if we do practice, because all sentient beings have Buddha nature, every single sentient being without exception, anyone who practices the Dharma can attain accomplishment. We can awaken to perfect Buddhahood because we have that nature within us. That's what is meant by this teaching, this word, luminosity. So sometimes when we talk about luminosity, we speak about empty clarity or empty bliss, bliss that is empty, emptiness that is also blissful, clarity that is empty, emptiness that is also clarity, clear or cognizant, the non-duality of these aspects, the non-duality of awareness and emptiness, empty awareness. This is the nature of our mind, and this is what we must realize. If we want to recognize the nature of mind, we should follow the teachings that are taught in the great tantras. And what is taught there? Well, it's extremely vast, it's extremely extensive, there's so much that's taught. But in general, we could say that there are teachings on the way in which the world is, the outer world, and also teachings about the Vajra body, the channels and winds and energies or bindus that are present in our body. When these are in an impure state, they manifest as three poisons, and when they are pure, they are the three kayas. We talk sometimes about the three channels in the Vajra body or the 6 chakras. We say these texts teach us that great wisdom abides in our bodies. So these unique practices that are taught in the tantric teachings, if we want to engage in these practices effectively and correctly, what do we need to do? In general, we need to have renunciation and weariness with samsara. On top of that, we need love and compassion and bodhicitta. And on top of that, what else do we need? Devotion and pure perception. That's really hard. That's very difficult. That's why it's said that the vehicle of the perfections is more difficult than the general vehicle of Buddhist practice. And Vajrayana, to train correctly and practice genuinely in the view, meditation, conduct, and result of the Vajrayana, that's more difficult than practicing the vehicle of the perfections. It's hard to even fit within our minds the view, meditation, and conduct of the Vajrayana. And so that's why we train in devotion and pure perception. Pure perception, how should we understand this? It's taught in the tantric teachings that everything that appears and exists is great purity. It always has been perfectly pure. All that appears and exists is great purity and equality. This is the view that is taught in the tantras. But if we don't begin with an understanding of the general teachings of the Buddha from the general vehicle of the Buddhist teachings, and without then also training in the vehicle of the perfections, it's difficult for us to come to properly train in these teachings. In the snowy land of Tibet, there are 3 different approaches to the Buddha Dharma. The first is called the approach of studying and reflecting on the view. The second is the approach of training in the pith instructions. And the third is the approach of the transference of blessings. The first one, studying and reflecting upon the view, is the way that monastics train in the monasteries, studying in the monastic college, the Shedra, how monks and nuns train and study. The second, training in the pith instructions, is a path that doesn't involve extensive study or learning, but it involves receiving pith instructions and actually cultivating and training on the basis of that. So, for example, receiving instructions and practicing the 4 thoughts that turn the mind towards the Dharma, or practicing the 5 times 100,000 accumulations of the Ngundro, the preliminary practices, or receiving detailed and clear instructions on how to practice the generation stage and the perfection stage, and then training in those practices on the basis of the clear instructions that one has received. This also involves practices that are related to the recognition of the nature of mind and remaining within and cultivating that recognition. So this is what's called the path of training in the pith instructions. It involves bestowing empowerments and teaching the tantras and passing along pith instructions, teaching pith instructions. And through this, it's possible for the teacher directly to point out the nature of mind and for the student to come to a direct recognition of the nature of mind through progressing through the practice in this way, or the instructions in this way. So having recognized that nature, the student needs to sustain its continuity, to remain within that continuity and develop stability in that. Because when we develop stability in that recognition, that's how we gain accomplishment. So here we're talking still about luminosity, luminous and uncompounded, the Buddha said. What is luminous and uncompounded? The nature of your mind is luminous and uncompounded. It is a luminosity and emptiness that is uncompounded. It is cognizant emptiness. In the Buddhist teachings, we're always concerned about being free from the 2 extremes, right? Being free from those 2 extremes of permanence and nihilism. But the unity of cognizance and emptiness itself transcends those extremes. Those 2 extremes are perfectly transcended within that view of cognizant emptiness. The nature of mind is unconstructed, uncompounded. That means it's free from arising and abiding and cessation. This was a brief presentation on the 3 vehicles of Buddhist practice. Now for the teaching topic today on Chokurduchin, which is the 4 truths. I think probably you've all already heard quite a bit about the 4 truths, and probably you've read quite a lot about the 4 truths, the 4 truths of Noble Ones. And so I wasn't able to get into too much detail about that today, but in brief, the first truth is the truth of suffering. Suffering is something that is present in all of our experiences. Those who have a lot suffer. Those who have nothing suffer. Those who are destitute. There is suffering present in our experience all the time. We can never, as sentient beings, get beyond the 3 types of suffering. There is the all-pervasive suffering of simply being conditioned. We're always about to get sick. We're always about to experience some kind of pain. The suffering of suffering itself and the suffering of change. You're sitting here right now, everything's really nice, the phone rings, you pick up the phone and you get really bad news. All of your ha-ha, hoo-hoo turns immediately into tears, doesn't it? Isn't that what happens? That's the suffering of change. Hope is suffering. Doubt is suffering. Fear is suffering. There are countless types of suffering. Suffering, however, isn't random. It has a cause. When we're sick, sickness has a cause, right? If you have a thorn in your arm, it hurts because you have a thorn stuck in your arm. And it's going to feel better when you take the thorn out. Until you take the thorn out, it's going to keep hurting. While you have pain in your arm because you have a thorn stuck in it, you can pray as much as you want. It's not going to take the pain away. You can meditate on the deity. You can say a lot of mantras. What's going to help that pain go away is not those things. It's taking the thorn out of your arm. So we have to practice the Dharma. We have to practice. And maybe your question now is, well, how do I practice? How am I supposed to practice the Dharma? In short, the 4 truths teach the entirety of the Buddhist teachings. They're presented slightly differently in the different vehicles. The Four Truths presented from the Shravakayana, the Four Truths presented from the Mahayana, the Four Truths presented in terms of the Vajrayana. They're slightly different. The presentation is slightly different. It becomes more and more profound as one progresses through the vehicles. But actually, all of the Buddha's teachings can be presented within the Four Truths. It's kind of like a framework, right? A framework that actually contains or frames the entirety of the Buddhist teachings. They're all in there. And the Four Truths are related in terms of cause and effect. The cause is the origin of suffering, and the result of that is suffering itself. The cause is the path, and the result of training in the path is cessation, the cessation of suffering. And we speak sometimes about the Four Truths in terms of 16 different aspects. And this, again, is something that I didn't have the chance to elaborate on today. But if it's something that you're interested in, you definitely can learn more. But I think probably you've heard quite a lot about that. And so since this is something that I think you're already more familiar with today, I thought it's important to focus a little bit on something that's very important, which is the Vajrayana instructions and the recognition of the nature of mind. That's extremely important for all of us to come to recognize. So how do we do that? How do we come to that recognition? We can do it through the method or the tradition, the approach of practice of studying and reflecting on the view. We can do it through the approach of training in the Pith instructions. Or if there is a truly realized teacher and a truly qualified disciple, a student who has the highest capacity, a student who has trained extensively, gathered extensive merit in previous lifetimes, who has purified lots of negative karma in previous lifetimes, basically a student who is just about to awaken to Buddhahood, right on the verge of it. If there's a student like that who is a really perfectly, ideally qualified student, and if the teacher is someone who has genuine realization, high realization, then the auspicious connection of the meeting between that kind of qualified teacher and that kind of qualified disciple can result in the disciple coming to a direct recognition of their nature through empowerment. It could be that the teacher bestows empowerment, and through that the student comes to a direct realization of the intent of the wisdom of empowerment. It could be that the teacher teaches the tantras, and the student comes to a direct realization of the meaning of the tantras. It could be that the teacher bestows a pith instruction, and through that the student comes to a direct realization of the nature of mind. It could be that the teacher shows some gesture, and through that gesture the student recognizes the nature of their mind. It could be that there is no gesture at all, that the teacher simply directs their mind, their wisdom, great wisdom mind, simply directs their mind towards the student. And in that moment, the realization of the teacher and the student become equal. That is possible. That is extremely rare. It happened in the past. Look at the examples, for example, of Tilopa and Naropa, the relationship between those great masters in the past. That type of relationship or that approach to the Dharma is what's called the approach of the transference of blessings. What's the best blessing that you could possibly ever get? Recognizing the nature of your mind. That's the best blessing. Coming to that direct recognition of your own basic nature. A teacher who can point that out is called a Vajra master. It's someone who has the capacity to point out that nature, to point out the nature of mind directly. That teacher needs to be someone who is realized and has gained liberation through their own realization, and who then can, through their compassion, liberate others. The student has to be extremely qualified, of the highest possible capacity, and have great fortune. The student should be someone who has the highest level of renunciation and weariness with samsara, who has the highest possible level, excellent love and compassion, and who has unchanging, unwavering faith and devotion. If that happens, if that kind of teacher meets that kind of student, then without the student having to go through a lot of gathering the accumulations and purifying obscurations, without having the student having to study, reflect, and meditate very much. It is possible for the student to come to that kind of direct recognition. This is the tradition of the transference of blessings. In the snowy land of Tibet, all three of these approaches to the Dharma do remain and are passed on and practiced. The Vajrayana teachings is one in which we need to, or the Vajrayana vehicle is one in which we need to cultivate devotion and pure perception. This is necessary. Pure perception towards whom? Is it enough to have pure perception towards the teacher? No, that's not enough. We also have to have pure perception towards our fellow disciples. Is it enough to have pure perception just to our fellow disciples, to our fellow students? No, that's also not enough. We need to maintain pure perception towards all sentient beings without exception. And we can do this by knowing all beings as our mothers, thinking about the tremendous kindness, and also by acknowledging that without sentient beings, I wouldn't be able to attain Buddhahood. Because sentient beings are present, I'm able to practice and attain the state of awakening. That's the second contemplation. And the third one is that actually all sentient beings have Buddha nature. And in terms of our basic nature, sentient beings and Buddhas are exactly the same. We're not different at all. Sentient beings are obscured by temporary stains. But it's like this. If you have two precious jewels, and they're exactly the same size, and they have exactly the same value, but one of them is covered in mud, they still have the same value, right? So this is what it's like when we have Buddha nature, but are covered by the temporary stains, the obscurations. And if we train in this pure perception towards all beings, then this allows us to cultivate our practice more effectively. And on top of that, we need devotion. You know, devotion, faith, these are things that are present in all religious traditions. And there's different types of faith. There's people who have faith while knowing the reason for that faith. And there's others who have faith without really knowing the reason for their faith. Some people know the reason for their faith really well and clearly. Other people kind of have some idea of why they have faith, but they don't know very clearly. There's a lot of different ways in which one could have faith. In the Buddhist tradition, we talk about sincere faith and longing faith and the faith of confident faith and irreversible faith. But what about in the Vajrayana context? What kind of faith do we need in the Vajrayana context? In Vajrayana, our faith should be, our desire to come to the recognition of the nature of mind should be like a starving person, someone who is dying of hunger and thirst. The way that they relate to food and drink is how a Vajrayana student should relate to the recognition of the nature of mind. We should think there is nothing else in the entire world that has any value. Everything else is totally pointless apart from this recognition of my own basic nature. We should think that everything in the world is just like a plantain tree, like a banana tree. You peel off one layer, you peel off, it looks so solid. You peel off the layers and then there's just nothing there anymore. So acknowledging that everything in the world is like that and having that kind of devotion towards coming to a recognition of our basic nature. If we have that, then we will come. We will be able to come. This allows us to come to the recognition of our basic nature. And once we recognize that, we need to remain within that recognition, gain stability within that recognition, and that stability in the recognition of our basic nature is precisely what brings us to attain accomplishment. In Vajrayana, this happens through the practice of, or through receiving empowerment, through receiving instructions on the tantras, and through receiving pith instructions. This is all about luminosity. We're talking about luminosity, right? And on one hand, it sounds kind of easy, right? All sentient beings are Buddhas. That sounds pretty nice. That sounds pretty wonderful. We're all Buddhas. We all have Buddha nature. It sounds really great. Our basic nature is awakened. That's nice. But in fact, it's also the case that it's obscured right now. That basic state is obscured by the two obscurations and all of the habits that are connected with those obscurations. So what are those obscurations? Well, there's the emotional obscuration. Those are the 6 main negative emotions, the 20 subsidiary negative emotions, and so on. Then there's the cognitive obscuration. In the general context, the way that that's defined is any type of concept related to the 3 spheres of subject, object, and action. That's the general definition. But in particular, in the tradition of the Pith Instructions, the way that this is explained, or one way that this is explained, is that the cognitive obscuration actually involves fixating on things as being unreal. Like, all of this is fake, all of this is unreal, all of this is illusory. That idea, all of this isn't real, that is actually an obscuration. Because it's the idea, the fixation, the clinging on things as being unreal. That's part of the cognitive obscuration. Or also thinking all of this is empty, right? All of this is perfect simplicity. We just talked about emptiness and simplicity. This is being the view. But here what I'm saying is the idea, all of this is empty. This is emptiness. This is, right? Simplicity. Grasping, fixating to the idea of that. That grasping to things as being false, grasping to things as being empty, grasping to things as being simplicity or free from complexity, that is in the context of the tradition of the Pith Instructions, that's an aspect of the cognitive obscuration, actually. So again, in short, if you wonder, how do I practice the Buddha Dharma? In short, the Buddha said this: do not engage in any harm, in any wrong deeds. Engage in virtue perfectly and tame your own mind. This is the teaching of the Buddha. This verse, we say this a lot, right? We recite it every day. I recite it every day. Probably some of you, many of you probably recite that verse every single day. But the verse is not just for recitation. We actually have to do those things. We actually have to do those things. We have to avoid engaging in any evil deeds, right? And what does it mean to avoid engaging in evil deeds? It means to practice avoiding the 10 non-virtues. And if we do that effectively, if we avoid negative deeds, then we should rejoice in ourselves. We should say, hey, today I did a really great job. I didn't engage in any non-virtue all day long. I didn't say a single harmful word. I didn't have any negative thoughts. This is great. This is fantastic. I'm delighted. I'm practicing excellently. But maybe we did actually say something negative, or maybe we did have a negative thought, right? Okay, we're not going to kill or steal or engage in sexual misconduct, but did we lie? Did we speak harshly, divisively, right? Did we have ill will towards someone? Did we hold a wrong view? Maybe we did. And so what we should do in order to remedy that, our practice is to do the opposite instead, to do exactly the opposite. So instead of killing, we should protect life, protecting life. Like, for example, doing a life release practice. Actually, it's not just protecting life. When we do those kind of practices, and this is something that we do with our monastic community every year, the lamas and the monks and nuns, we get together and we pray, actually, for these animals that we're releasing. We usually release fish. And so it's not just that we prevent those fish from being killed by releasing them, by saving their lives. That is part of what happens. But it's not just that. We pray. When they do die, may they have a human rebirth, a precious human rebirth with the 18 freedoms and advantages. And then when they are reborn, then may they be born in a precious human birth. May they meet a spiritual teacher. Not only may they meet the teacher, but may they receive the Pith Instructions. Not only may they receive the Pith Instructions, but may they actually put them into practice. May they enter the path to liberation. May they ultimately attain awakening. This is the kind of prayers that we make. And if you think about it, if you do this kind of life release and make those kind of prayers, you're making a connection with billions and billions of beings and helping connect them with the path that leads to liberation. That's incredible. So the greatest generosity is actually the generosity of the sacred Dharma. And that's because this is something that can really, truly benefit others ultimately. Again, the Buddha said, do not engage in any evil deeds. Practice virtue excellently, and tame your own mind. So how do you tame your own mind? You tame your own mind by inspiring yourself with renunciation and weariness with samsara. This is important. You tame your mind by moistening it with love and compassion. This is important. And if you want to practice the practice of cultivating the view, coming to recognize the view of emptiness and simplicity, then you need a teacher. And there's lots of different kinds of teachers. We talk about sometimes the teacher, the guru, actually, who is a person who holds a lineage. We talk about the guru that is the words of the Buddha, the symbolic guru of appearances, and then the ultimate guru, which is your own basic nature, the nature of your mind. And we need these three outer gurus in order to come to connect with the inner guru, which is the ultimate one. We need the three outer gurus to come recognize that profound, peaceful, luminous, simplicity, luminous and uncompounded, that state. If we want to come to recognize that state personally, directly, we have to rely upon these three outer teachers. The first one is a person who holds a lineage, an individual. The teacher needs to have realization. That's what you should look for in a teacher. If you want a teacher, you should look for a teacher who has genuine realization. And then we need also to rely upon the guru, which is the words of the Buddha. That actually refers to the texts that are the teachings of the Buddha and the commentaries on them, the Tangyur. And then the third kind of teacher guru is the symbolic guru of appearances. Can really benefit our practice to look around at all these phenomena and acknowledge, wow, all of this is unreal. All of this appears, but it lacks any type of intrinsic reality. And this helps because it helps us reduce our attachment. When we rely upon these three outer gurus, this brings us to the ultimate guru, which is our own basic nature. And that's what we need to recognize. So this is how we should practice. Rely upon the three outer gurus to come to realize the ultimate inner guru, which is our basic nature. Rigpa, wakefulness, our own basic nature of mind. And this is something that we need to recognize. We must come to recognize this. I think I better stop here. It's already been a couple of hours, and so I think we've gone past the time. Maybe some of you are thinking, oh man, it's late. I'm getting tired. I'm feeling a little bit bored. Some of you might feel a little bit like that. But others of you might feel like, oh, hey, this was really great. This really helped me. I had already heard some about the Four Truths in the past, but to get a general presentation that is an overview of all three vehicles of the Dharma, and also to understand that these three are not in contradiction to another, right? Now I get it. It makes sense to me, actually, that the three vehicles are not somehow contradictory. And maybe you feel like this actually makes sense. And now I understand this verse that the Buddha taught when he first awakened. This is really clear to me now, and how it presents the teachings of all three of the vehicles of the Buddha Dharma. So maybe some of you feel like that too, and I would be very happy if some of you do. I want to say thank you as well to the 84,000 organizers. Sometimes if somebody says not quite enough, it's not good, and if they say too much, it's also not good. And actually, I did say quite a lot here, but I hope that it is of benefit to you. Thank you so much.
My late father, Chokyi Rinpoche, he teach about natural mind, and a few words is very touching my heart, maybe helpful to all of you. Number one, tate shepa somete, nyeba tuanchi kundusang, ene rang tang dalmanyo, ngoshe ngang tu rambab tongs.
This present, unfabricated moment of awareness is the ultimate Samantabhadra. You have never been separated from it since the beginning. Within this recognition, let go naturally.
Solve zolce kapji dekida, löbe löze rangshal döngeda.
When you put forth effort, it hides. When you just let go naturally, you see your own natural face.
팔라 만진, 술라 마고, 발라 마샤.
Don't hold on to something over there. Don't try and grasp on something over here. And don't leave it in the middle either.
똥상에, 쌍탈레, 고향에, 제니에레.
Empty, lucid, naked, vivid, just as it is.
때마 타도 통마 타도 절.
In the moment that you look, you see. And in the moment that you see, you are free.
Okay. You all have a lot of interest. You have very good patience and diligence. More than 2.5 hour talks. Yeah?
Yes.
And when I look to each of your face, you look not boring. So you're all very fortunate student. Very high capacity student. Thank you. I'm really happy seeing many of you I know. Only some of you I know. Most of you I know. And the Dharma centers and the Dharma houses from all over the world. I'm seeing and make me very happy. And thank you. I don't know, good night or good morning. Good morning, good night, good afternoon. Okay, bye-bye. Gawande 저거 소노이쇼 소도노 소노이쇼라죠. 담박거냐 터버쇼. 다게 손놈 내 숨전 탐지 말려봐. 대파 탐지 빠는 따디 개와 잡으쇼. 장수 쌤다 멘터신 장수 쪄라 쇼르쇼. 되jellem나 뻔는 니 말없지 지라한테 쭉쭉 말하래. 다게 손놈 대이네 최시 집에 손놈 대이네 손데 심제 탐지 말려봐 대파 탐지 뻔쇼. 따디 개와 잡으쇼. 장수 쌤다 멘터라쇼. 장수 쪄라 쇼르쇼. 되jel레 짠 마치스 메케와 짠 마치스. 자시 자수스 비춰발로 쪄로치 따테.
This is my dedication. It's from the Bodhicharya Avatara. And thus by all the merit I have gained, may every being leaving none aside, abandon all their evil ways, embracing goodness now and evermore. From bodhicitta may they never separate, and constantly engage in bodhisattva deeds, and may they be accepted as disciples by the Buddhas and turn aside from what is demon's work. So by the merit, this merit of teaching the Dharma right now, by the merit that I have gained through doing this, may all beings, every single one, abandon evil. May they take up the practice of goodness. May they always have bodhicitta. May they constantly engage in bodhisattva activities. And may they never ever do anything that is demonic work. That means may they all, every single one of them, totally and completely abandon the 10 non-virtues and practice the Dharma. This is my prayer.
Also, you all know the many teachings are online. Heart Sūtra is online. Uttara Tantra Shastra, one of the very good Khenpo teaching, online. Shamatha and the Vipassana online. Also, few Umacawa Sharap, if you really want it, there is possible we can make available online. And deeper excellent meditation practice is very effective to mind. That is online. Also, I want to say welcome those who come in Ranju Institute this year physically. Some are over hundreds coming here, and many are also studying all over the world. Our management people telling me to say welcome, but I think here enough. So I want to say I don't need to say again, welcome all of you, and whatever you learn need to apply. The teaching of Buddha is medicine. Medicine need to eat. Buddha is a skillful doctor, but doctor cannot heal. Medicine will heal. He will not heal. His teaching will heal. He will not make us liberated. His teaching make us liberated. So Buddha says, I will show you path. Go or not go in your hand. But don't ever believe someone will put you in the high place. There's no, I can't put you somewhere in like revelation. So in your hand, your worst enemy is within you. Your supreme healer, helper, saver is within you. It totally makes sense. So, and also this year, many Chinese are studying Tibetan language, also Buddhist philosophy, and we're all very lucky. We have very good translators. All of you really are hearing me from all over the world. Because of not me, because of you. You study hard at the Shedrub Mandala Institute. You study year and year with good teachers, so you become really good translator. So that make huge difference. A good translator or social translator, it make huge difference. So all of us very lucky. Okay. Also, good news. Today I heard in Gompa, there's over 800 lay people are studying Tibetan language and teaching for 4 months. Over 800. That's every day number is growing. Only problem is the shortage of class. The all monks class we give to them for a certain hour. No shortage. It's okay to use Ranju Institute classes. I don't no way, no. They're coming very soon, no way. So, but this is good news. Please rejoice. How many? You see, each of you keep this in your heart. Whoever come, I keep telling them, please study. If you not study, you don't know how to practice. More than practice, you need to learn first how to practice. You not learn how to practice, you practice. It's not relevant.
Relevant?
Not relevant. Yeah. Even to cook, we need to learn first how to cook. Yeah. But this such profound. Practice means it's really profound. So need to learn first and then practice. But not learning and rushing to practice, it's not relevant. So I keep saying here, there. Now monks almost criticize it too. You tell everyone to study and practice. Now over 800, we have no place. For me, I'm laughing. It's good news. But I'm sorry to monks. They don't know how to handle. I'm hiding in the mountain. Beautiful, quiet place I'm hiding. But I will go down. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you for 84,000. Your name Ju? Jengru. So sweet. Okay, thank you to all of you. Bye-bye. Take care. Okay. Over and out. Over. Listen. Listen. Let's go. 1 minute. Let's go. Let go. Let's
go.
Let's go. Let go. You got it? Huh? It's very interesting. You shouldn't ignore these words. Let's go. Let go. No calm, no kind. No kind, no clear. Calm while where? Calm. Not like this. Boom, 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 calm. No. No. Calm while where? Kind while good deeds. Sometimes I feel bad. Sitting nice place and hot tea drinking. I want to get rid of all of them suffering and the cause of suffering. I want all of them happy and the cause of happiness. Lip service. So need to bring in action. What is the action? Let people to study. Let people to taste the Dharma. Let people to practice. So, kind while good deeds. Good English? Good deeds enough? How to say?
Yeah, that's fine, Rinpoche. Be kind while engaging in good deeds. It's perfect, what you said. Yeah.
Clear while no attach. Sala zimba meba.
Clear without attachment.
Calm while where is the perfect shine. Kind while good deeds is loving kindness and compassion coming in action. Clear while no attach is vessel.
Luminosity.
Substitute vessel duma.
Profound, peaceful, luminous here, and uncompounded, right?
Oh really? Only 5 minutes, others 3 hours. Amazing, we all did good. Oh. Okay, bye-bye. Over and off.
Thank you, Rinpoche, for giving us this precious teaching and reminding us again and again
Okay.
how important it is to practice the Dharma as time do not wait. Please keep teaching us again and again to awaken us from our delusion. And as 84,000 and Dhamma Chakra continue to translate and provide access, may Rinpoche continue to teach and liberate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Stay safe.